Good morning, folks. Ready to call the meeting to order of the Pennington County Planning Commission, August 8th, 2022. Recommendations to the Planning Commission on certain items of this agenda will be considered by the Board of Commissioners at their regular meeting on August 16th, 2022, 10:30 a.m. The Planning Commission utilizes speaker request forms, which are available in the commission chambers here during the meeting. If you are an applicant, you do not have to fill out the speaker form. We do ask each one of the planners whether the applicants are present and would like to speak. Roll call. The only one I see absent right now is Kevin, per the record, and Lloyd is our liaison member from the Board of Commissioners today. And I'll work a little bit slower on some of those things. And as you can see, Brittany is our Gal Friday today over at where Jerry's usually at. And Jerry's actually having what would you call it? A thankful vacation. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the July 25th, 2022 minutes. Does anyone have any changes or clerical errors they noted in that submission?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
page 6, discussions followed, first paragraph. They wrote out 17, and in parentheses it says 16. I believe there are 16 conditions that we approved at that meeting, not 17.
Mine says 16. Oh, I see the word.
Yeah, the word
That's what you mean by
17
wrote
was
out.
followed by 16 in
Agreed.
parentheses.
And since we're on that one, I do have, also, I believe we dropped item number 3 because it was away from 14 and 15, which are the new order we use on our fire pits. We left the two together. I believe we did number 3, not 14. We omitted.
We left number 3, but we added 14. We added,
No, I don't think we added it. From the old ones, according to this, 14 was there, but somehow we did something that was different. We left 14 and we added one that, well, but we also took another one away. That was the deal. We took one away and we added one. But number 3 was the one, it was way up in the top. And number 3 reads that the proper permits be obtained prior to utilizing fire. And the original number 14 was the same. 3 and 14 were the same. And I believe we added the number 15 one that says also that they have to notify the people of the phone number and the internet conditions.
item 14 reads that the applicant shall approve phone number and internet address to clients.
Correct.
Current day's fire condition pertaining to the use of the fire pit.
Yep.
I think we added that language in there.
So, well, at least we've got that. That's got to be looked into, Brittany. We'll get that worded correctly and which one we did. Any other ones? Hearing none, the chair would address a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 25th, 2022 of the Planning Commission. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the agenda at this point in time?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as noted. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Now, any clerical errors found in the consent agenda before we motion on that? I did not notice any. Okay, Chair would address a motion then to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion. Does the staff have anything they want removed from the consent agenda?
No, sir.
Any of the members want to move an item out of the consent agenda? Anyone in the public want an item taken out of the consent agenda? Okay, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we're on to item number 6.
Item number 6 is, Jason Fennison, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item number 6 is conditional use permit 22-36 to live in a tiny home while building a single-family residence on the subject property. Planning Commission has seen this request before. This is more or less an amendment.
Excuse me, Jason, is everybody hearing Jason? Okay, thank you.
This is more or less an amendment to a previous conditional use permit, CU 21-44, to where the applicant requested to live in an RV while he built a single-family residence. Now he's just asking to change that plan to a tiny home instead. So with that, I'll read through the 7 criteria the Planning Commission may consider in their review of conditional use permit applications, starting with number 1 there on the screen if you'd like to follow along. Number 1, no, the requested use should not be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare, especially considering the temporary nature of the applicant's request. Number 2, the requested use should not have any long-term negative effects on the use or enjoyment of properties in the immediate vicinity. Number 3, the requested use should not affect the normal orderly development or improvement of any surrounding property in the area. Number 4, access is off Dakota Road. Number 5, the requested use should not impact traffic congestion. Number 6, the property is zoned agriculture district. Living in an efficiency dwelling or tiny home while building a residence is allowed with an approved conditional use permit. And lastly, number 7, yes, the future land use of the subject property is agriculture district. Allowing this conditional use permit is consistent with the comprehensive plan view to 2040. There are also specific criteria in the zoning ordinance section 330. Staff found that they did meet all of those requirements. As it sits today, the property is vacant. It does have a stormwater permit for some dirt work that they did on the property. There is also an on-site wastewater treatment system. The request was routed out for an interdepartmental review. Addressing coordinator stated that an address must be posted on the tiny home prior to the single-family residence being built. The environmental planner stated that the on-site wastewater treatment system is sized for a 5-bedroom residence, and County Highway had no objections or concerns. July of this year, the applicant applied to live in the efficiency dwelling tiny home while building a single-family residence on the property. Once the residence is completed, the applicant has requested the CUP to be reviewed to allow the efficiency tiny home to remain on the subject property. With that, staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 22-36 with conditions.
Thank you, Jason.
See,
Questions for Jason?
So I have a site plan of the property that the applicant had provided. You can see he's going to put his single-family residence in this area. He had identified the tiny home location to be here. There are 2 accesses onto the property, one here and then one further down. And this is the access road for the tiny home. And here's the floor plan for the tiny home. With that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Apologies, Jason, I flipped too fast there on a page. Questions for Jason?
Got
Go ahead,
one.
Mike.
Jason, the civil issue they talk about, if that goes the wrong way, does that mess up their easement?
I believe that's been corrected so far. So, yeah, I know that was noted. I think some access was blocked up there for an easement, and that has been corrected. I believe ordinance enforcement
They're
stated
shaking
that
their
it has
heads
been
no.
That was the
closed.
ordinance enforcement B.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's been corrected, that's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one, Jason. When you look at this, and we're going to be looking at this again if they keep it on, we won't see it again if they keep the tiny home on there or efficiency dwelling. Under our definitions or the way the ordinance is written on this, do these fall right into place versus a mobile home? I guess is my question. In other words, is there anything that you have to do extra or we have to note in these in regards to an efficiency dwelling?
No, section 303 covers pretty much everything, every requirement for these sort of structures.
Okay.
So they do
And
meet
you
those
feel
requirements.
comfortable, or staff feels comfortable with moving these things on where they're, because I think we'll see more of them, I guess, would be my
For
thought.
sure. It's a relatively new ordinance, so I'd expect to see more of them. This is the first one that we had so far.
Okay. Any other questions for Jason? And is,
Not for Jason,
Go
but I saw that the applicants were
that's what I
shaking
was
their.
gonna, is your applicant here?
No on the easement, so.
I have one question for Jason.
Sure. Go right ahead.
In section 303, are you aware of what the foundation or anchoring requirements are for
This
efficiency
says it
on
needs
this?
to be on a permanent foundation. As far as anchoring goes, I don't believe it's required unless it's in a special flood hazard area, similar to a mobile home.
Would it be in, Jason, would it be in their building permit requirements because of our,
No, it'd be specified in section 330.
okay. Kevin, go ahead.
No,
You have
thank you.
concerns about the mounting or what we would say storm-related mounting?
Temporary housing, I don't feel comfortable with remaining on tires, so, or mobile, so it should be anchored in some way, whether it's set on a permanent foundation.
It does state it needs to be set on a permanent foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then typically high winds can, hurricane straps, that kind of stuff. Are in a lot of codes. I don't know if those apply to this or not.
Would it be bolted down like a normal?
Right, but there's additional straps or
Yeah.
anchoring brackets for hurricane ties. And in a traditional foundation and house structure.
I would think that if they got a permanent foundation, they're gonna have the tie straps too.
Yeah, we don't specify per our building codes what they are. I know International Residential Code does cover foundations and how to attach homes to foundations.
To be certified, they have to have straps.
Yeah, my main concern was that it just wasn't sitting on tires the entire time.
Right.
And so it's sitting down on a permanent foundation.
Yeah, the ordinance does state that you need to have it on a permanent foundation, so
Okay, thank
once
you.
they get their building permit, we'll take a look at that.
One last comment. I agree. If they've got to coincide with whoever we've selected for our building permit requirements, certification, so to speak.
Right.
Thank you. Anything else for Jason? And your applicant is here?
I believe so.
Okay. We do have a question for the applicant, so if you would come up and introduce yourself for the record, and then we'll see what we can throw at you here, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Mike Wagner. And
The question about the easement, I saw the head shaking saying, no, it's not settled yet.
I think it is, but I am willing to do whatever I need to do to make it that way.
Yeah, you can work with us during the building permit process.
Yeah. We did do a little work up there. And my guy that I talked, my excavation guy said that he cleaned it back up. I have not been back up there to look, to make sure that the easement's back in the same shape it was before. We had to, we were running lines for power and that kind of stuff up in that area, so. As far as I know, it's all good. You were up there?
Dwayne went up there.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Anything you would like to add to it, Mike?
No, I'm just, ready to get moving if I can.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else in the audience who wants to speak on this item? Can I ask you to do me a favor when you're done? There's a speaker request form in the back corner. Don't get it right now. Just, I want you to feel comfortable and come up here and introduce yourself, please, for the record, and then go ahead and go forward from there.
Sounds great. My name is Susan Anderson. We are owners on the land up above of Wagner's property. And we were out on the land here, my husband and I, just a few weeks ago. And initially, back in the beginning of June is when we noticed where the easement is for us to get up to our property. we couldn't even drive on it because the whole wall was carved out, which we were shocked, because when we purchased the land, we still were able to get up to our property, at least to a certain area, and then we had to walk it. We went back again at the, after the third weekend in, our fourth weekend in July, and it had been cleaned up some, but it still is not drivable to the point of we could take a vehicle up prior to get up access onto our land, and we still can't drive a vehicle, so we have to stop it down at the bottom and then walk going up to the property. So that was our only concern. The other thing is that when we had looked at it, I mean, we're excited for other homes to come up there, is that we just wanted to make sure that where the tiny home was placed, that it was not in any area of where the large easement was. I've spoken with Aaron and I've spoken with Gareth up on the land area, and we just want to make sure that wherever this tiny home, and especially now if they're planning on keeping it there, that indeed it is not on any of that area that's going to impair us having the opportunity to get started on our project to get our home going, so.
Questions?
Do you get to your land through Blue Wing up that way?
Yeah, we go up past Gareth, up on Dakota Road there, and then when I can see their property down below, and you have to go through the area where they took out the wall there, the mountain kind of there, and then we turn around and then you have to switch back to get up to it.
Isn't the old Calumet mine up above there, that flat area, or are you up in that flat area?
We're in the flat area.
That's all I've got.
Any other questions? While you're here, I have a question for Jason before you sit down, please.
Okay.
Jason, are we dealing with the Forest Service or the feds on some of this access availability? No.
No, it's a
I
civil.
saw a letter in there from them, and I realize that's normal for your circulation. I just wanted to see whether that involved the access matter. Okay.
Can I just ask clarification
Sure.
on where the tiny home, from where the plot is, where they've opened up the whole bottom area for the property to be, which is beautiful, where in access to that you're planning? Are you putting it down on that lower area?
So I would ask the applicant to come up here. This is the site plan that he submitted to me, indicating the tiny home is going to go here, which would be down in this area, it looks like.
Mike, just a point of order. I have to have you to enter your name again in the record just
All
for.
right, I'm Mike Wagner. Yeah, we're not gonna be where you're talking, the easement, we're not even, we just widened that out so that, clean it up, basically. Originally, I thought I was gonna go up there, and then I found out it was easement, so I can't go up there. So, in this new area, which he showed you the driveway, actually, where you, okay, so where you go up,
Yeah,
okay, there's a down.
yes.
Okay, so it's down and in there.
Okay.
So there's two little pads in there.
Okay.
And it's the first one, and then the log home will be up on the upper one.
Okay.
So, yeah. And we should be all cleaned up and even nicer than it was
Okay,
within the next couple weeks.
that's fine. It's,
So,
main thing was for us to gain access to
Yes,
get up to our
yes.
property, which we.
yeah, I
we've been able to,
apologize
so-
for that too.
Right, thank you.
It's progress and trying to get stuff done, so.
Okay,
Thank you again, Mike. Just before you sit down,
okay.
Jason, can you explain just what they were talking about for the commission?
Right, more or less just clarifying the site plan that the applicant submitted. So this is the access easement here. This is his driveway that comes off of that access easement, and this
Okay.
is where he'll be taking access for his tiny home. There is another access off of this easement that leads down to his future home in this area.
Okay, what is the area then that's in question here, Ms.
It's-
Anderson?
I believe it's right up in this area.
Okay. And Mike just indicated he'd have that cleaned up and leveled off and whatnot. I just wanted to get it right for the record so that,
Yeah, he stated that he has made progress on it, but that he will have it
Okay.
cleaned up to better than original condition.
so it's not complete, but it's still on everybody's mind that it needs to be straightened out.
Right.
Commission understand why I was trying to get that in there? Okay. Anything else?
No. that was-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Chair would address a motion on the matter.
So move.
I'd second.
Moved and seconded. Per staff's recommendation, to approve conditional use permit CU 22-36 with 10 conditions. Discussion. Jason, and then I would think unless you're here, just follow up on the only real complaint right now on this matter in regards to that, cleaning that up. Just, you can do that by telephone, however you like, through Ms. Anderson. I would like that, so that you, at least you're comfortable
Okay.
that that's been taken care of. Any other discussion? Anyone else want to speak on this from the audience? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to the next item, which is item number 7.
Agenda item number 7 is conditional use permit 2237 to allow grain bin to be utilized for food and beverage sales on the subject property during the summer months. The applicants are Nathan and Alexis Soboleski. Property owners are Ralph Stacy and Wayne White. Portion of property is located at the corner of East Highway 44 and Bear Creek Road. It is currently 157.51 acres zoned agricultural district. Similar to the last request, this one requires a zoning ordinance with 7 criteria the planning commission may consider in their review of conditional use permit applications. They're on the screen. And I'll read staff's responses, starting with number 1. No, allowing this conditional use permit should not be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. Number 2, no, the requested use should not have any negative effects on the use and enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood. Number 3, no, allowing this conditional use permit should not affect the normal orderly development or improvement of any surrounding property in the area. Number 4, yes, property is currently vacant of any utilities. The use of porta potties will serve as a means of on-site wastewater disposal. Number 5, yes, ingress and egress will be provided via proposed approach off of Bear Creek Road. The applicant has proposed 8 parking spaces per the attached site plan. Number 6, yes, the property is zoned agriculture district. The requested use may be allowed with an approved conditional use permit. Number 7, yes, future land use of the subject property is agriculture. Allowing this conditional use permit is consistent with the comprehensive plan view to 2040. As the property sits today, this is the small portion. I identified it on this site plan here. So it is just going to be this small corner that's isolated from Highway 44 from the rest of the property. And this is the applicant's site plan. They do have a building permit for the grain bin to be placed here on the property. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. County Highway stated that adequate off-street parking must be provided. Parking in the right-of-way is not permitted, and staff did include that as a condition of approval. South Dakota Department of Transportation also commented stating that no new additional access to South Dakota 44 for the parcel will be allowed, and there were no other objections or concerns received. Staff's analysis of the request is that the applicant is proposing to utilize an existing grain bin for seasonal sale of food and beverages along Highway 44. Operations will be conducted May 1st through September 15th from 7:30 in the morning till 5 p.m. The applicants have provided an approved South Dakota Department of Health temporary food sales license, and parking access appear to be adequate for the requested use. And you can see this is a site visit photo. So you can see Highway 44 here on the left, Bear Creek Road, and 174th kind of creates a triangle for this portion of the property. So this is the view looking southeast. This is the view looking northwest of the same portion of property. And with that, staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 2237 with conditions.
Thank you, Jason. Questions for Jason?
I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Go ahead, Karen.
Jason, will this be for selling farm goods, things that they've grown on their property? Is it going to be hot meals? And if so, how will that be handled?
I believe they plan to set up a grill and some coolers with beer. They have applied for a liquor license through the auditor's office, and there's a condition on that, that they get this conditional use permit prior to them getting that approved.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of different things. The permit, if you look at the permit, it's got one address and we have another address on the location.
So they don't own this property. There are separate property owners. The Sobolewskis don't own the property.
Okay. The other thing is it permit's only good to 8/12/22.
Right. I think that's so that's a temporary permit,
Right?
and I believe that they'll have to get another one once that one expires.
Oh, okay. So are they going to sit inside at all, or this is strictly outside?
Per their site plan, looks like everything is seating areas identified outside.
Okay. You know, we ran into this before, Charlie, with that other one where they wanted to have the vacation rental or whatever it was in that. I'm just curious what this thing looks like. Have you seen it? It's just a hollow grain bin?
I've not seen it. I believe it is just a hollow grain bin.
Okay. Okay, for now, that's fine, thank you.
I have another question.
Go ahead. Karen.
And you may not know this, but if it's a grain bin and they're talking about possibly removing it after the season, is it going to be secured to the ground so it doesn't blow away in some of the winds we get?
I don't know if it's going to be permanently anchored or not. I doubt it.
So the applicants,
Go ahead, Kevin.
I've got questions for the
Yeah,
applicants.
go ahead. Oh, you, for the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay. I have one for Jason. Jason, I guess green bins aren't the most popular thing with me when we're talking housing people, feeding people, doing things. And I've already stated my reasons why. But at least in this case, if we're not establishing what I would call a permanent structure to do business out of it, and if we did have a permanent structure, there would be a septic system, there would be a water system. And that's our requirements, that's our building requirements, and it's that simple. And when we have these things, we try to, and I'll use a nice word, skirt them somewhat to get around the investments in those things. In this case, I really would, I'm not excited about porta potties when we're talking commercial business.
I believe this is it's a temporary use. I mean,
Right.
something similar would be if they were to go put up a pole tent out there.
Well, what I was
For-
thinking is
in the meantime,
if we added a condition that said if this continues, that a permanent structure be done, and then the permanent structure guidelines become effective, I guess. I'm agreeing with you that this is temporary, the bin. We just got done doing one that wasn't temporary, the vacation home rental, and they concern me, so.
Right.
Go
I guess
ahead,
I guess
Jason.
I kind of see a similarity between this and a fireworks stand. If it's only up temporarily, then it's taken down. We don't require them to get permanent structures next year, even though they're going to come back for the same use.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
Jason, how is this different from a food truck? I mean, is it about the
I think
same
it's the
degree
same
of?
concept of operation,
Tentativeness?
possibly, just not in a mobile vehicle.
Right, and I assume that, is there power to this property?
I would have to have the
There
applicant
water?
come up and
Any
speak
kind?
to that. I don't believe there is a well on that portion of property. I don't believe there's electricity either, but again, I can ask the applicant to come up here and answer those questions.
I think we should hear from the applicant, because I think,
Okay, one last one. Would you oppose if I asked that we look at a condition that then put the review at, say, May next year, so that this couldn't be run for most of the season and,
That makes sense.
okay. Thank you. That'd make me feel more comfortable.
Sure.
And the applicant is here. Okay, please come up and state your name for the record. And a couple of people got some questions for you, folks. And if you'd like to say anything first, you go right ahead.
Yes, sir. Nate Sobolewski, and this is co-owner.
Yeah, Lexi Sobleski.
So I understand what you were asking earlier. So basically, our neighbor Wayne White and us swapped leases So he's putting his cattle on our property and we're using this
Okay.
temporarily. We use a telehandler. If you're not familiar with that, it's the forklift with the big arm that extends out. And you can pick up the whole grain bin and move it where you want to. So it is just like a tent, really, essentially, in this case. However, we did try to purchase the property, and at this time, they're not willing to sell, but they are willing to let us lease it. I would definitely look at a more permanent structure if we ever can do that deal. However, for now, it is more of like a food truck stand kind of thing. We are trying to serve beer and wine only, not liquor. And then we trying to do some Philly cheesesteaks and burgers and stuff like that. And the Porta Johns are only there, as we need them. And we've got a local company off of the reservation that comes and services those. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do. It's a very simple concept. We're just using it temporarily to serve the public for food and ice cream too, and so we can get the kids out there. But yeah, that's kind of what we're leaning towards.
And as for your question, as far as like the security of the building, we do have it staked down with some earth anchors. And then when we're, going to move that, we will move it back up to the house and secure it as well. So
Okay.
it is safely secured.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Had 80-mile-an-hour winds too, and it held them. So
Yeah.
Additional questions for the applicant?
Yeah, so my
Go
question
ahead,
is,
Kevin.
you're running 7:30 to 5 is the anticipated hours. So are you doing a breakfast and a lunch type deal?
yes, sir. Biscuits and gravy typically for breakfast, and then lunch we do Philly cheesesteaks, burgers, and we have ice cream as well.
And then you will be removing the structure at the end of the season?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's no footprint left on the property afterwards?
No, we did have with our building permit, we did have power trenched to the grain bin, so there's just a pole sticking up with outlets in it. But everything else will be removed. And then the Department of Health came out and checked everything already to make sure we were up to par, and we're good to go there too. So
Then the bulk of the cooking will happen inside the grain bin?
negative, it'll be outside. It gets way too hot to cook in there. So, but just serving the beverages and ice cream is out of there.
So that's where your people will come in and your clients will come in and actually get served?
Yes,
And
sir.
then they'll go outside and eat it at
No, no,
tables?
no. There'll be
They'll
an open, like a panel taken off of the grain bin, and we serve them out of that panel. So
Jim? Just a
So-
second, Mike? Just a second,
Go
Jim.
ahead, Jim.
I think some of these questions have been answered in regard to power. You evidently have power there, but there's no water supply. Everything would be portable, is that it?
Yes, we have hand washing stations and then with the porta potties, and then for us, when we're cooking the food, we also have two hand washing stations as well. So for us as the cooks, and then for them, they have theirs, customers have theirs as well, separately.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Anything else,
Okay,
Jim?
I guess that's.
Mike?
What do you have for a floor?
we put a wood floor in there. It's sitting there now.
A
So
plywood or
no,
supposed to
actually,
be or something?
yeah, it was old barnwood, and we just put it together so it kind of it fit the look, And then we had the Department of Health come in and improve everything so that there's certain guidelines you have to follow with that. But everything is installed there.
So do you have a walk-in door roughed into the bin, or do you just have the door, the old bin door open and they just go in?
No, it's just the cooks that go in and out the access door, and then we serve out the window or the panel we take off. That's where we would
Do you
serve.
have any kind of roof or anything in case it rains for the patrons?
Yeah, and on top of that, we have, I guess, temporary tents and camouflage netting for shade and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Okay.
I did want to mention one thing that you guys had brought up because you wanted to do it like temporarily. Whenever we put this together, we tried to do it because of the conditional use permit. We didn't want to have to go through this every year and try to go through it, but I wanted you guys to know the intent is to buy that place and put it as a permanent structure. But for now, it would be just easier for us to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we plan to do every summer until we can purchase it and then not have to come back here. And the only thing that we found, and I'm big on safety, is how are people going to see us? DOT, we've been in contact with them on how to get signage up so people can slow down fast enough. I know it doesn't show it in the picture, but it actually is dug out there. So when you're driving, you can barely even see the top of the grain bin from the highway. So we're looking at different ways to provide signage to get people to know where we're at first off and not slam on their brakes, because I could just see a group of
Yeah.
bikers or something coming and somebody having to slam on their brakes. So we're just trying to look at different avenues, but it is tough with the DOT because they have laws they have to follow too with as far as signage and stuff. So we're working through that too. Just wanted to kind of keep you guys up to speed.
Okay, Nathan, you just brought up a good point, and that's why I was suggesting perhaps the reviews should happen earlier in the year for you so that you could go a year at a time.
Sure.
So and I think that would fit you better because then you have some confidence that you've got till the next year and the next year. But you basically have a season, in other words, ahead of you.
I think the hard thing for us is, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we paid a pretty hefty fee for this conditional use permit.
Oh, yeah.
And we're gonna have to pay that annually if we keep having to do it.
That's not.
So,
No,
no,
there's a
okay.
review fee,
Okay, okay.
right?
They're just reviewed.
Yeah.
There's no.
There's no fee on this one. Okay,
It's $100 in
I
the
thought there was,
review.
For vacation home rentals. Yep.
okay, very good. We got one of your questions answered then
Awesome,
too.
thank you.
Good. Anything else for the applicants?
One
Mike?
other clarification, how big is this triangle?
It's
Acreage-wise?
18-foot diameter. I'm sorry, triangle. I think it's 0.6 something acres, if I remember right. Jason probably has that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else for the applicants? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else for Jason? Chair would address a motion.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation, conditional use permit CU 22-37 with 15 conditions. Is that correct, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion. Any from the audience? Anyone additionally that would like to speak on this from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 8.
Agenda item number 8 is minor plat, MPL 22-41 to subdivide and create lots A, B, and C of Otho subdivision. The applicant and landowner is Mary Dietrich. Her surveyor is Hal Land Surveying, and I believe she has an agent in the audience. If you have any questions for him. Location of the property is 13380 Greyhound Gulch Road. It is currently 4.9 acres, zone agriculture district. Existing land use is residential and a group camp. Access is off Greyhound Gulch Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. So the existing lot you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen, proposed is on the right-hand side of the screen. Proposed Lot A will contain a single-family residence, 3 sheds, an on-site wastewater treatment system, and will be 1.322 acres. Lot B, which is in green, will be 1.435 acres, contain 2 single-family residences, a barn, and an on-site wastewater treatment system. And Lot C is in blue down below. It will become 2.185 acres, contain a single-family residence, 2 guest cottages, a shower building, 5 cabins, a shed, and an on-site wastewater treatment system. Request was sent out for interdepartmental review. There were no objections or concerns received. Staff's analysis of the request is that in December of 2003, the Planning Commission approved conditional use permit 02-59 to allow an organized camp in an agriculture district. This conditional use permit will need to be reviewed and amended within 30 days of filing the plat with the Register of Deeds. In June of this year, the Board of Commissioners approved Comprehensive Plan Amendment 22-12 to change the future land use from ranchette to low-density residential. They then approved rezone 22-13 to rezone the property to low-density residential. Planning Department does not have record of an on-site wastewater treatment system operating permits for 2 of the single-family residents, and the applicant is scheduled to have those pumped within the next 2 weeks. With that, staff recommends approval of minor plat MPL 22-41 with conditions.
Thank you, Jason. Questions for Jason?
I've got
Mike?
one. Jason, a lot C, is gonna have a residence, 2 guest cabbages, shower buildings, and everything else on 5 cabins. What are they gonna do with that?
So it's right now it's an organized camp that
Well,
they
I know,
have
but I
out
mean, when
there.
they split it up, what do they plan on doing with Lot C? I mean, we're okaying some changes here.
Right, so that's where the CUP is gonna be transferred to, is that Lot C. The applicant is only subdividing the property because she's having some difficulties with her home insurance company. They won't insure her residence that's on Lot B right now.
Oh.
While there's an organized church camp on the property. So she has to subdivide it and parcel that off so she can get homeowner's insurance. She's been without for a few months now.
So C would be then the church camp or whatever at that point?
Correct.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
got you.
Yep, and we would review that conditional use permit so we get that correct legal description on there.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
Additional questions for Jason?
I have one. Why are we going to review conditional use permit CU 02-59?
So we can update the legal description? Because right now, it's for the existing legal description for this property as it sits today. So we would have to,
We don't modify that one.
so we would review that original conditional use permit more or less just to update the correct legal description for it.
Okay.
Additional questions for Jason? Anyone in the audience here to speak on this item? Chair would address a motion.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Per staff's recommendation to approve minor plat 22-41 and 3 conditions. Discussion. From the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 9.
Agenda item number 9 is preliminary plan 22-36 to subdivide and create lots A and B of Kirsted Edition. The property owner and applicant is Dale Kirsted. His surveyor is Davis Engineering. Location of the property is 23938 Highway 385. It is currently 7.19 acres, zoned agriculture district. Access is off Highway 385, and there is special flood hazard area to include floodway on the property. So this is the proposed subdivision. This is the entire subject property. You can see they're more or less just doing a lot line adjustment, just drawing a line through there to create 2 separate properties. Lot A, which is to the north, will contain a single-family residence. It will become 4.138 acres. Lot B down below will contain a detached garage/shop building, and it will become 3 acres. The request was sent out for interdepartmental review. South Dakota Department of Transportation did note that no additional access to US 16 will be granted. No other items or concerns were received. With that, staff recommends approval of preliminary plan 22-36 with conditions.
Questions for Jason?
I have one. Danny from Hill City, the one you've worked with, she puts a note onto you, said would like to see strong private access agreement. Is this a problem?
I don't believe so. There is an access easement on the property for this.
I know, but I mean, what she's saying, is this anything to worry about, or we have that corrected pretty much?
So we have a legal access there on the property. I don't know what her definition of strong is, but we go with legal.
Okay.
Additional questions? I have one. When we do items like this, Jason, we in effect, we're creating a lot that doesn't have a primary, of 3 acres, it doesn't have a primary structure that qualifies. In other words, we didn't approve his building originally as the primary structure. Does that end up creating a condition, especially where they would, by they, Hill City might consider annexing this where it's a problem for the property owner?
I actually asked Hill City if they were going to annex this. It was the first thing I saw because it borders Hill City, and apparently they have no interest in it.
Okay.
So I don't foresee it becoming an issue.
All right. When we do these things, then we are accepting as a council that the detached garage and shop building, and it is substantial, is the primary structure that's on that lot.
Could ask Brittany a question. Did they get a conditional use permit for that?
No, he plans on submitting a building permit because they're gonna build another home. He's actually downsizing. So he's selling that larger home, and then once the plat's filed, he's gonna apply for a building permit to build a single-family residence on that new lot.
So you're attempting to make it a little more efficient with him doubling up on processes.
Right, because he's gonna apply for the building permit
Excellent.
far before he would even probably go through the CUP process.
My concern was that we vote on this and then we force him into doing two processes rather than one. And I wouldn't want to do that. I'd rather prove that now that it's clear and understood. Is that something we should add as conditions so we haven't violated anything?
No, because if that lot is created and he does not come in to get the building permit for the single-family residence, then we would have to work with him to get the CUP. So it wouldn't be a violation until that lot's actually created.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jason? Anyone from the audience here to speak on this? Chair would address a motion on the matter.
I move we approve PPL 22-36.
Second.
Approved and, motioned and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation. Primary Plan 22-36 with 4 conditions. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 10.
So just for your awareness, agenda items 10, 11, and 12 are regarding the same property.
Thank you, Jason. Before you get started, then, I would just as soon,
I
Mr.
would
Lewis.
motion to waive the rule to combine the 3 into 1. However, we would be voting separately on all 3.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, just as advice, it does take a 2/3 majority. In this case, it would take, what? There's only 6 of us today. It still takes the 5, doesn't it, to pass the motion? Okay, any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We will be discussing, for the audience and for the record, we will be discussing items 10, 11, and 12 together for discussion only. They still will be voted on separately. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, agenda item number 10 is conditional use permit 22-31 to allow a multifamily residence, a fourplex on the subject property. The applicant is Scott Moore. I believe he is in the audience if you have questions for him. Property is located approximately 160 feet south of the intersection of Remington Road and Knuckle Duster Road. Property is 2.14 acres. Currently zoned suburban residential district. It is vacant. Access is off Knuckle Duster Road, and there's no special flood hazard area on the property. I'm going to change this up just a little bit. I'm going to make staff's recommendation, and then if you have any questions for me, then I can go through more detail in the staff report. So staff recommends to deny conditional use permit 22-31 without prejudice due to advertising being done for lots that have not been platted, an incomplete drainage plan, unimproved approaches, and for not meeting section 303 requirements, which covers multifamily dwellings.
Okay, just for the record, so that Jason understands as well, each individual item, there will be a request for additional discussion, which would address your issue of being more specific to the specific item.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions for Jason?
I have a question. Do you know if Murphy Ranch Estate subdivision has covenants?
I don't know if they have covenants or not. I know they do have a road district.
Thank you.
Oh, Chair, Mr. Chair, didn't I ask that question the last time? I think I did.
Maybe.
There was somebody up testifying about the thing, and I asked, and they said, no, they didn't, only the road district. I believe that's what they said. I may be wrong, but I think it should be in there.
There's no HOA. Cody's telling me there's no HOA out there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Jason? Jason, I do have one. How aware are we of, it appears you've written in here about submission from Davis Engineering regarding drainage retentions. Can you elaborate on that a little bit so we know That went to the city, do I understand?
Right, I believe that's why the applicant originally platted or began the platting process through the city of Rapid City, and I believe that's one of the reasons that the platting did not continue, is because there were drainage improvements that were required.
And are you aware that something's been submitted in that regard from Davis Engineering? Did I understand that right?
I'm
Yes, Davis Engineering has submitted information to the city and to County Highway. Neither have officially approved those design plans or made recommendations for those design plans. This lot was originally supposed to be the drainage. There were supposed to be drainage improvements for portions of Murphy Ranch. So that's the concern with the highway department, that that drainage is addressed in addition to the impervious area that's added to this lot with the three structures.
Okay, Brittany, I guess that was, I'm headed where my question is. Are we premature at even looking at taking an action on this until we hear back from them?
So as
It's
of,
one of the main issues is what I'm getting at.
sure, I've contacted the city several times a week to find out if the preliminary plan has been submitted. Because originally the plan was submitted to the city and it was denied because of the drainage. Staff was unaware of that, when the applicant applied. That wasn't communicated to us. And so when we routed it to the city came back and said that the plat was denied. So it was advertised for lots that don't exist right now because the city didn't approve the plat. And the last time I spoke with Marlo last Thursday, there still was not a plat that was applied for with the city.
We do at least have a copy of what was submitted in the highway department, do I understand?
Yes,
You
it has
said-
been sent to Sean.
Can I, and you'd have to look over the top of your thumb at this one. How much of the issues that involve all three of these pieces of property, and I understand why they were split up, how much of the issue is involved or is that new submission addressing, whether it's approved or disapproved?
There is significant concern from our highway department on the drainage in Murphy Ranch. So they have a lot of concern. They want to see the drainage before they would even consider anything. And be satisfied that the drainage is being addressed.
Okay?
Charlie, I would like to clarify.
I understand that.
I'd
Go
like to
ahead,
clarify
Jason.
one thing, that this is one single piece of property today. It's not been separated. It hasn't been subdivided at all.
Correct. That's a good point. Even though we're reviewing it as a three separation, is what you're saying, yes. That particular procedure is not done yet. Yes, thank you. Any other questions for Jason? And the applicant is here, Jason. Okay. Thank you, Jason. Would the applicant like to come forward? And it appears some of the commission members have some questions for you. And please introduce yourself just for the record. Thank you.
I'm Scott Moore, the applicant. At the time that I applied for the CUP, the day prior, I submitted the lot split with the city, Rapid City, so I didn't know. I thought this drainage issue was all taken care of with Phase 8 of Murphy. Later on, I found it was not, and then it's taken me forever to get Davis to get me some plans. I've since constructed the retention pond that's going to be required. I'm still waiting from Davis to get the outlet structure sizing. That way that can be placed. I'm just trying to move this as fast as possible. I was supposed to start on this back in March, and I've had hurdle after hurdle. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
I did apply, and the city is still reviewing that drainage plan. Davis assured me that as soon as he gets the outlet structure to them, that it should be approved. But he's waiting for an engineer to give him those numbers for that outlet structure, and the outlet structure is sitting in a form ready to be poured. They just need to know the outlet size.
Okay. Questions for Scott? I've got one. Right now, you're aware of the recommendation of the staff on the three items.
Yes, deny.
Okay, is to deny.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's premature? You know what I was asking, Brittany. You certainly understand what I
I
was
was
asking,
hoping that
Brittany.
things would fall into place to where all the questions or their concerns would be addressed at this point, but unfortunately they're not, so maybe the best move would be to continue.
That's what I was asking. You both understand. Brittany understood where I was headed with it, and I'm sure you did. What is the commission? What I'm advising is, at least while I feel uncomfortable with Davis's addressing some of the issues involved with this today of automatically applying the denial, whether it's better to continue this until we get the recommendation back from what was submitted and what issues would be left. I guess I'm saying I think we still got the cart out in front of the horse, but
Well, it's a denial without prejudice, so he can
yeah,
come
you
back
could
in.
go again. Denial without prejudice means you're not going to spend any more money. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, okay, I just didn't
They,
want to have to.
he would have to pay to re-advertise it because the lots are
Re-advertising,
not
yes.
created right now and they were advertised as those
Right,
lots were
because of
created.
the lots. You would have to pay that fee anyway, in other
Re-advertising
words.
fee.
You would owe
The
that, but you
application.
would not owe a refiling fee on
Okay.
just this. Does that make a little difference for comfort wise, so that things are in order from the city before you walk before us? There's a number of issues here besides just the one that the Davis report at this point is addressing,
The other ones were,
Right, so it's gonna have to be re-advertised regardless.
right?
The incomplete drainage plan that we talked about, unapproved approaches from the road district. To our knowledge, they don't have any approval for those approaches that have been cut in. And, section 303 requirements have not been met either.
And then there was 33 feet of apple tree right away that needed to be corrected on the drawing, is that correct? As
Yes.
well?
well, I was unaware of that. We don't need to vacate that area for apple tree, I mean, for our building envelope, I believe is.
I'm gonna let Jason handle that
That'll
one.
be handled through the plating process with Rapid City.
All right,
We don't have the jurisdiction.
thank you. Anything else you can think of, Jason?
No, sir.
But I guess we'd want it understood that no work could continue to go on at this point until Rapid City takes an action on it. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, we're more or less waiting for the lots to be created before we can move
Correct.
forward with the request.
Yes. Anything else from the commission?
What's the difference with the continue if we tried to do that instead of the deny?
Continue in the past, and this isn't, I don't think it's a requirement, but we have always tried to put a date on it so that we don't continue something. The 1 year mark is a true thing, but I'm going to have Megan answer that one. I'm not doing a good job of it. Go ahead.
Megan Kruger with the state's attorney's office. So fundamentally, there isn't a huge difference between a continuance versus deny without prejudice. I guess my opinion, my legal opinion, is that this applicant has been given numerous chances to come into compliance and has failed to do so. And so I don't really see why we would give him another chance.
It'll be without prejudice.
Yes. Yeah. The staff's recommendation is without precedent, but Jason's point and Brittany have pointed out that one, the re-advertising fee and the notice fee, did you say? You had one.
Advertising fee.
Just the advertising.
Advertising fee would still
And
be.
they'd have to renotice all of the neighbors.
Correct. That's what I thought you had said, the re-notice fee, the mail out, excuse me. Thank you, Scott. We're going to end up doing something. Would you like to say anything before you sit down?
Well, I don't know if I need to re-advertise or re-notify all the neighbors, because there's almost 40 of them that I had to send out. So there's a fairly substantial cost to that for me as
That
well.
would be involved, Scott, that would be involved just because of the lot divisions anyway. That would come up to you
Well,
either way.
the notifications had the 3 separate lot descriptions on it. So as soon as that's done, then that would be,
But the three separate lots are based upon, on a different item of, that's the plat, right?
that
Could I
plat that
And
speak
that would
briefly?
normally, go ahead.
Sorry, Megan Kruger with the state's attorney's office. So we don't know what the city is going to do as
Right.
far as the plat, what they're going to allow, whether the lots are going to be 3 lots, or if they're going to be 2 lots, if they're not going to allow it at all. So we have no idea what the advertising requirements are going to be until it's actually platted. So he will have to re-advertise once it's platted.
And renotice.
It's required by state law.
all right, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Scott. Additional questions for Jason? Additional discussion from the commission? And we are now talking about, we've ended the discussion on the matter, we're talking about item number 10. Chair will address a motion.
I move that we deny without prejudice CU 22-31.
Okay, second for that?
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept staff's recommendation to deny conditional use permit CU 22-31 without prejudice.
Charlie? I
Yes,
believe there
go
are
ahead.
speaker request forms on this
Yes.
item as well.
I was gonna get that in discussion this
Okay.
time, because I got them later, and I apologize, I didn't stick them in my,
Okay.
my leaf here, I just noticed them. Thank you, Jason, though, for reminding me. Okay? I do have speaker request forms for the commission. This would be on item number 10. You can also make your discussion regarding 10, 11, and 12 at the same time. That rule has been waived. Okay, the first speaker is Howard Rice.
I'm Howard Rice, and I own the 40 acres just to the east up there. And if you're looking at that map, it's the piece where it says subject property. Apple Tree Road actually is on my property. It's not on anybody else's. As you turn the corners, you come up, my address is, it's on Higgins Lane, but apple tree that goes up to the first, if you put that other map back there, where the house is there, the Norris house. We gave them permission back in 1990 to use that road as long as they lived there.
As an access.
As an access. I don't know why he just, I'm going back to 2001, whatever it was, when everything was going to be a single-family dwelling in Murphy Estates. And even now, as you probably know, Andy Skull is off Highway 44 and moving dirt and manure from an old place down there to put single-family homes in there. Why would you put apartments or fourplexes into a place where everything else in the place is single-family dwellings? It makes no sense to me. I could see 3 nice half-acre lots in there with nice homes on them. You cut the traffic down, you're looking at 24 more cars in that thing with 12 plexes. Be 12 different places. Everybody up there's got at least 2 cars, maybe some have 3. I don't think anybody in the entire place up there would say anything about putting the single-family dwellings in the way the rest of the subdivision is set up. That's what it was set up. The other thing that's missing from 2001 is the soccer field, baseball field, and the park that was promised by Davis Engineering back in 2001. I have the letter here with me. Some of that doesn't happen, so.
Yeah.
Things change as they go along, and developers just kind of go along and do what they do. And that's my comment on that.
Questions for
Yes,
Howard?
I have a question.
Yes.
Have you been in front of the city planning commission?
No, I didn't even know this was going on until I got the letters with this. And so the first I knew about it was when, what was it?
Mr. Moore's letter.
Yeah, the
notification.
25th, I guess.
That
All
last
right.
2 weeks ago meeting is when I was here, yeah. That's the first I even heard about multifamily rather than single family.
Okay.
Any other questions for Howard? Thank you, Howard. And I have one question, just one, Howard. Do your comments then, discussion-wise, involve items 10, 11, and 12,
Yeah.
just for the record?
Yes,
Thank you.
you bet.
I have one more speaker form. Marie Trueblood. Marie, just if you would introduce yourself and lower your microphone there and for the record,
I
and
get
go
used
ahead.
to that.
Thank you.
My name is Marie Trueblood, and I live in Murphy's Ranch, and I'm here to testify against this. We have a dog, so we walk our dog. She's very active. We walk up and down every street in that subdivision, and it's all single family. It's all large lots. What we're really doing here is building a ghetto. You walk around, everybody's got a nice front yard. They've got dogs in the backyard. You're building something, there's no backyard. If you look at the plans, some of them are going to have single car garages. There isn't a family in there who only has one car. So we're creating a little ghetto within a single family subdivision. It makes no sense. And it was not zoned for that. Most of the people, we've talked to everybody we can, but a lot of people work weird schedules. We haven't talked to everyone. They don't know anything about it, but the reaction universally is, how can that be done? This is single family. So you're not going to find support in the community for it. I don't know if that matters at this point, but we will continue to be testifying against it and monitoring the progress, if there is any.
Questions for Marie? I guess I'd add with what Mike said, did you know about the city's review of this matter?
No, I did not.
And then secondly, do your comments involve, just for discussion purposes only, items 10, 11, and 12 together
Yes,
combined?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Just doing that for the record. I know it
Absolutely,
seems
absolutely.
redundant,
Yeah,
but
that's.
thank you. Any additional questions for Jason? We are now officially on item number 10 only. Unless, Scott, certainly, you're allowed to come up. We'll stay on it's still open for discussion. Go ahead.
Just Scott Moore. I just want to address some of the concerns of
Sure.
the last couple speakers. There are some single car garages, but I'm providing 4 off-street parking spots for each unit in addition to the garage spaces. The backyards are going to be 75 foot deep. It's going to be on a community irrigation system, and all the lawn maintenance will be taken care of as part of the units. That way, I don't want to have some people with long grass and all that. So I'm just, and they're not really apartments. They're townhouses. They all have separate entrances. They share no roofs or ceilings with one another, just a common wall. So it's something that is going to be coming more into our area just to keep the cost of housing down, because housing is skyrocketing, as everybody knows. So, I think if there's any other things I need to address there, but
Are the townhouses going to be multi-story?
you walk in on the main floor and they are a garden view basement basically underneath it. So they're on the front, they're single story, on the back, they're a story and a half.
Okay.
So they won't be any taller, or they'll have the requirements of the county is so much outdoor space. We're meeting all that, and plus some, especially with the outside yard.
And your party wall will be per the specs that are required by the city?
Yes, and we're also gonna fire sprinkle them on our own.
I see.
That, they're not required by the county, but we are sprinkling them.
All right. And you, just a second, Scott. Any questions? for
One
Scott?
question, Scott. What price point, if, assuming everything gets taken care of, what price point are you trying to hit at? I mean, approximately.
My idea is to hold them, with them being able to be sold in the future. And in today's market, they would be selling for around 280.
Thank you, Scott.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Scott. All right, now we're back on item number 10. That was additional discussions, and he was speaking on all three items. On item number 10, do we have any more questions for Jason to elaborate on? Any other discussion you'd like to have prior to motion? Chair would address a motion.
I think we had a motion.
We have a motion.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did before a discussion on this because of the combined. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That does cover item number 10. Now, you, as Jason requested, we will open the discussion again on item number 11, should you have an additional question for the applicant or Jason. Hearing none, the chair would address a motion on item number 11.
Make a motion that we take staff's recommendation for CU 2231. That would be item agenda number 11.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded per staff's recommendation to deny conditional use permit CU 22-31 without prejudice.
32. It's 32, isn't it?
32, yes. Thank you. Clerical, we didn't find. 32. Now, discussion and questions. Discussion or questions for the applicant? Questions for Jason? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're on to item number 12.
Chair, move to approve item 12, CU 22-33,
Is there a second?
Deny without prejudice.
to deny without prejudice.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation, denial conditional use permit CU 22-33 without prejudice. Additional questions for Jason? Additional questions for the applicant? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 13.
Cody Sack, environmental planner. Item 13 is minor plat MPL 22-37. It is to combine two lots to create lot 45A of Burns Place or MS 697. The applicant and landowner is Charles and Kimberly Klafka. The surveyor is All Aspects Incorporated, Brad Limbo. Location of the property is 12287 Deerfield Road. It involves approximately 4 acres. Current zoning is rural residential district with an existing land use of residential. Access is off Deerfield Road, and there is flood hazard area on the property, Zone A. This was routed around for interdepartmental review. There were no major comments or concerns that were received. The applicant is proposing to combine two existing lots, lot 45 and 46, into one lot to do to construct an addition onto an existing residence. The addition wouldn't meet the proper setbacks. On March 15th, 2022, the Board of Commissioners approved layout plan LPL 22-01 with conditions. Staff finds no significant issue with the applicant's request, as it appears to be in harmony with existing lots and land uses in the area. So with that, staff is recommending approval of minor plat MPL 22-37 with conditions.
Thank you, Cody. Questions for Cody?
Question, I think this is one we visited a couple of times. Didn't you find a separate, an old
There were
building or
some
something?
buildings on the,
Yeah.
and I believe driving by the, I think the outhouse is probably off on maybe somebody else's piece of property. Is that possible? And they removed it was a red, kind of a storage structure. It's been removed.
So I'm not sure if that structure's been removed. I know that they haven't applied for the building permit for the additional work on the garage. We requested a updated site plan showing that structure, which we haven't received. Both of those have been made conditions of the minor plat moving forward, that they have to still submit that.
It sure looks like they're moving forward. The only thing I saw was the outhouse, and they're probably, I would suggest they're looking into what they've got to do because it is an outhouse. But the other structure has been removed, if that's what you're asking,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yep, okay.
And as you said, that really shouldn't be part of it. It is one of the conditions, and it'll be taken care of.
Correct. When they come in for the building permit, some of that stuff, when we see that on the aerial, if they say it's gone, we look at it, and if it needs a removal permit, we get a removal permit for it. I guess I'm not sure if an outhouse would require a removal.
Okay.
Or not, but
In my observation, they're moving forward, so that's about as fair as I could be. Any other questions for Cody? Is the applicant here?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience want to speak on item number 13? Any other discussion from the commission on item number 13? Chair would address a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval on MPL 2237.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve minor plat per staff's recommendation, MPL 22-37, with 8 conditions. Discussion? Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Cody, I believe there's one of the commission members noted that they wanted to make a motion on this particular item. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, we're going to waive the rule for 14 and 15. We will discuss these two together, but we will vote separately.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, just for the commission's knowledge and the record, it does take a 2/3 majority for that motion to be successful. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. You may discuss items number 14 and 15 together. They will be voted on separately. Thank you.
Item 14 is Comprehensive Plan Amendment CA 22-17. It is to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from agriculture district to ranchette district. The applicant and landowners are Brian DeShane and Curtis DeShane. Location of the property is at the very southern end of 153rd Avenue, south of Longview Road. It involves 11.6 acres. Current zoning is agriculture district, and it is vacant many structures. Access is off 153rd Avenue. When reviewing rezones, Pennington County looks at current zoning and future land use in the area. So current zoning is agriculture district, which requires a minimum lot size of 10 acres. The proposed zoning is ranchette, which is 5. Maximum density for single-family residence density is 0.1 dwelling units per acre for agriculture and 0.2 for ranchette. They each, both districts require a 25-foot setback from all property lines. On that chart, it shows 25, 10, and 10 for agriculture.
Just a moment, Cody.
Brian, we would ask that you would mute yourself on Zoom. You're causing a lot of feedback in here, so we ask that you mute until you're ready to speak. That's fine.
Go ahead, Cody.
The chart's wrong. For setbacks for agriculture, I guess I did not change that. It says 25, 10, and 10. Agriculture requires 25 for all as well. Predominant land uses are agriculture. Ranchette also adds residential, and utilities are private. We look at current zoning and future land use within a half mile of the property. That particular property, everything is agriculture within a half mile. That's that light green color that you see on the screen. This was routed around for interdepartmental review. There were no major objections or concerns that were received. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the property into 2 parcels. The property is being split through eloquent description. The applicants have applied for rezone RZ 22-23, which is item 14, which is to rezone the property to Ranchette District. Ranchette District allows large lot residential and agriculture uses, which is pretty predominant in the area. There are several single-family residents out off of 153rd. Staff finds no significant issues with the request as it appears to be in harmony with existing land use within the area and is supported by existing roads and infrastructure. The majority of the properties within a half mile are large lot residential or agriculture. So staff is recommending approval of comprehensive plan amendment CA 22-17. And then item 15 is rezone RZ 22-23. It's to rezone 11.6 acres from agriculture district to ranchette district. And as long as the comprehensive plan amendment gets approved, staff would recommend approval of rezone RZ 22-23.
Okay, questions for Cody on items number 14 and 15?
Yeah, I
Go
have
ahead.
one. Being born under a rock or falling off a turnip truck, I don't know. Property is being split through eloquent description. I looked it up. What are we saying?
So that's saying they're not going through like the plating process where they have to create lot 1 or tract. It's the legal description is going to be like the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter. It's done basically through deeding, so that process doesn't come through our office or the planning commission.
So there's no problem down the road for legal descriptions or anything as long as we do it like this.
Correct. When I spoke with the applicant's wife several times, and I believe I spoke with the applicant once on this. I told them that if they could, I told them the process to go through plating, but then also if they worked with a surveyor and the surveyor could describe it out and register of deeds would accept that description, that they could go that route, and it appears that their surveyor can. If it turns out that they can't, they would just have to come back in and go through the plating process. They'd still have to do the rezone.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Additional questions?
I have a question, and it doesn't really apply to this, but will access to the second part of the lot, the back part of the lot, be on the section line right away, or do you know yet?
When I spoke with the applicants, they were proposing to possibly do that. I told them that they'd have to go through 2 separate construction of section line right-of-ways, which would have to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. I believe they may do an access easement across the first lot to the second lot to avoid doing that section line, but I'm not 100% sure what they've decided on.
Thank you.
Again, additional questions for Cody?
Mr. Chair, in the eloquent description, you stated that if the Register of Deeds does not accept the surveyor's report, that it would be, have to go through a plating. Is that a condition of this? I mean, is this stated anywhere in here? We're voting on something, and yet if it doesn't go through, where does it state that they have to do something different?
No, we can't. Unfortunately, we can't condition rezones. They would just, they want to, they live in California. They want to move out here. It's son and parents, and they want to split it off and have 2 families on there. So either way, they're going to have to go through that plating process or the eloquent description if they want 2 lots. You can rezone a property without going through a plating process. Out there, it looks funny having ranchette and all the ag, but if you look at the definition of spot zoning, it's something that's substantially different and allows something substantially different for uses than the area, and ranchette really, it's actually a little more restrictive than ag is.
Thank you.
When you say substantially, I assume what you're saying is the staff or the department is comfortable with large lot uses. You used that a number of times in your approach, and I'm comfortable with it. Large lot uses certainly fits alongside an agricultural as a normal use in my mind. Go ahead.
Correct. So when you look at the difference between ag and ranchette's more residential with a hobby farm, and that's pretty much what this is going to be. And a lot of those lots out there, they're zoned ag. I don't believe they're actually taxed ag where they have any purpose. They're just a residential lot that's zoned ag. So staff is comfortable with the request of ranchette. Because again, it is a little more restrictive, so they wouldn't be able to put a pig farm on there like their neighbor to the north could.
Thank you. And is the applicant here?
They are on Zoom, if there's
All
any
right.
questions.
Any other questions for Cody before? And Brian, are you on Zoom?
Unmute.
We've got to give him a minute to get it off of mute.
Okay, I am unmuted.
Would you like to add anything to this request before we look at taking action on it? You or Debbie?
No, I think Cody described what we're trying to do. I mean, our original intention was when we bought the property, we hoped that we could just put the two single family residences. They said it's our son and daughter-in-law and us, but I have my understanding from the county ordinance, you can't do two single family on one plot, so that's why we're subdividing.
All right. Any questions from the commission for either Brian or Debbie? Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
Any other additional discussion from the audience? From the commission, the chair would address a motion.
I move we approve CA 22-17 as recommended by the planning department.
Thank you for reminding me. We are back on item number 14, correct? You kind of did that indirectly, Karen. Thank you. A second to Karen's motion.
Second.
All right. Additional discussion or questions for Cody on item number 14? From the audience? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are on to item number 15. Additional items or questions or discussion on item number 15. Questions for Cody or general questions? Chair would address a motion on item number 15.
I move we approve RZ 22-23 as recommended by planning department.
Second to that?
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept staff's recommendation for approval of rezone 22-33. Question or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Brian and Debbie. Both of them were approved.
Thank you.
On to item number 16.
Item 16 is mining permit review MP 16-01. It's to review a mining permit to excavate, extract, and process gravel on a portion of property. The applicant is Western Construction. The owner of the property is Clapperidge Ranch LLC. Access is off Longview Road. There is no special flood hazard area on the property. This was reviewed last on July 26, 2021, due to complaints from neighboring property owners. Staff still receiving complaints from neighboring property owners on the dust. I tried to get a video of it, but as you can see, their crusher is operating. I have a video if any of the planning commissioners want to see it. I just couldn't get it to work on the PowerPoint this morning. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of dust leaving the site. So I've received two written complaints and actual, where they've actually come in and signed a complaint form. So what staff did is staff's tried contacting the applicants and I haven't heard anything back. So staff just added a condition that this permit be brought before a revocation hearing if staff receives any more substantiated complaint regarding dust. That's really the only major difference from last year's review. So staff is recommending approval of mining permit review 16-01 with the 19 conditions.
Okay, and what you were speaking about, Cody, just to clear for the record, is your condition number 18 that's been added?
Correct. It would force the applicants to come in here and face the planning commission on why with all the complaints that we've received over the last 3 years about this site, why they should still be able to continue to operate. This just gives them one more chance to come into compliance and not have dust issues.
Questions for Cody?
I have a
Mike?
question. The prevailing wind, when you look at the satellite view on this thing, it would take the dust right across the airport.
So staff's actually contacted the airport before. They haven't complained about any dust, and when I contacted them, what happens is between this property and the airport, there's actually a little valley, and the dust goes in and settles the valley, and then it goes down the valley, and they're actually in a decent spot where it goes around. The neighbors who are have concerns live to the north, and when they get southerly winds, it just he's got pictures and videos too that he was supposed to send me, but he never did. But he said sometimes you can't even see the airport because the dust is so bad.
How often does this gravel pit work?
So generally it's every couple months they crush for a couple weeks and then they stop, and then they crush for a couple weeks and then they stop. Staff's biggest issue is that their crusher is supposed to have water on it, so it's not supposed to produce nearly the amount of dust that it is. I know a couple years ago they said that it was broke and that they were going to fix it. If they fixed it and it broke again, I'm not sure, but sometimes it's hard to substantiate these complaints because we get a complaint about dust, 2 or 3 days after the fact, and then by the time you go out there, they're done crushing. But like I said, he says he's got a ton of videos. He's a little old school, so he can't email it to us. So I got to find a way to get him off of his phone.
But could we have a conditional, an additional, like number 20, additional requirement, something as far as sprinkling water or using water within this operation?
So if you look at condition 5, actually it's check marked yes. I didn't change it. Part of their stormwater and erosion control stuff is supposed to handle that. So they're supposed to be meeting that requirement, and they're not, and that's why we're here.
Got it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Lloyd.
has there been any concerns made or complaints to the Air Quality Board?
That I'm not aware of. If there have or not, our office hasn't sent anything over to them. If other people have complained, I'm not sure.
I have one, Cody. Hey, would you feel comfortable if I asked that you put the review at 1 year instead of 5?
Yeah.
For follow-up on this one, because we have a lot of citizens that do not feel comfortable signing and submitting a complaint, but will come here and speak about their concerns in a review process.
Yeah, staff would be okay with that.
Okay.
If that's what the planning commission chooses.
Realizing full well that if a complaint does come forward, it's going to be reviewed sooner.
Correct, yes.
But at least we're going to look at this again in another year. Any other questions for Cody while we got him? Is your applicant here?
No, they are not.
I heard it bling. Does that mean somebody's on Zoom? I don't think so.
No.
Nope. Very good. Anyone in the audience that hasn't filled out a form and would like to come forward and talk on this? I just want one item discussion. I agree 100%. I think we've just got to take a harder look. There's several items here that need to be reviewed, and it sounds like staff's already notified them. Let's see if they respond this year. So let's get it done. Thank you. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, well, that's right, we haven't got a motion. The motion would have to include, and it already does, Cody's new number 18 and my request to switch 19 to 1 year, not 5. Go ahead. Anybody like to make a motion to that effect? The chair would address it before we get voting on it.
I would make a motion to that effect of changing from the 5 to the 1, and that we accept the staff's recommendation on this one.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to accept staff's recommendation for MP 16-01 to include 19 conditions. Condition 19 revised to indicate 1 year. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're on to item number 17.
Item 17 is Planning and Development Overlay Review, PU 22-06. It's to review a planning and development overlay that allows a single-family residence to be used as a music school and a bed and breakfast, which includes accessory structures. The applicants and landowners are Brett Wellfish and Katie Smirnova. Location of the property is 13271 Klondike Road. It involves 17.04 acres. Current zoning is agriculture district. Existing land use is residential. Access is off Klondike Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. Currently on the property, there's a single-family residence, 12 by 20 shed with a porch, and a 16 by 24 shed, all of which have proper building permits. And there are 2 sheds that are under 144 square feet that are sitting on cinder blocks, which do not require a permit. There is an on-site wastewater treatment system, COSD 21-0026, which has been installed and approved by the state and by the environmental planner for Pennington County. On June 10th, 2022, the Board of Commissioners approved Planning and Development Overlay PU 22-06 with conditions. On August 4th, 2022, staff performed a site visit and found 4 practice cabins were on the property. Unit numbers were posted on each of the sheds. Smoke detectors were in every sleeping room, and there were fire extinguishers on both levels. And there is an evacuation plan posted by the exits. So it appears that all conditions of approval are being met. At the Board of Commissioners meeting on June 10th, the main concern with from the Board of Commissioners, and Commissioner LaCroix can correct me if I'm wrong, were some of the bed and breakfast usages in the area. So that's why this was put on review so quickly, a month or 2 after it was actually approved, was to review the bed and breakfast part of it. They can't operate the bed and breakfast part until after the Board of Commissioners meeting on April 16th. If the Board of Commissioners approve to allow that as a use. But the Planning Commission has approved bed and breakfast in agriculture districts before. It's actually fairly common. Staff has received multiple letters in support and opposition. Those letters are on file at the Planning Department. We didn't feel it needed to be in this packet again. It got pretty long. Staff did not receive any complaints while the music school was operating. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the extension of PU 22-06 with conditions.
Thank you, Cody. Questions for Cody?
Did they put sheetrock on those 4 practice facilities?
So this was taken the other day. They have not. This is what it looked like as of last Friday. I believe they're going to finish them. They're in the audience if there are any questions for them, but I believe that they are going to finish those off. I think they just got delayed in timing with some of the requests and getting continued, not knowing if it was going to be approved or not. So they're a little behind on their construction.
Rock a little more fireproof. That's why I wondered.
Correct. Yeah, I believe by the time it operates next year, that those will be.
Okay. Another thing, we have bed and breakfast or lodging. Is this a proper thing to say both? I mean, which is which? Who makes the decision on this thing?
I'm sorry, which one are you
all right,
referring to?
Recommendation number 1, you've got can be used as bed and breakfast or lodging.
So that's the lodging facility for the music camp. Um, Currently, I don't know if I have it. So currently that's their structure right now. They have, two A-frames that they're proposing as well that'll have sleeping quarters in them. So that what that condition is saying is that during when the music school is being ran, students can stay on the premises at that property, and it could during non-times when the music school's not running, it can be used as a bed and breakfast.
Okay.
Any other questions for Cody? I've just got one, so that my mind's right, I'm reviewing this. One, we're basically reviewing an extension of the original action. However, we're only really looking at one item that needed involvement in the extension. Am I correct? Go
Correct.
ahead.
It's more the bent, from my understanding, and Commissioner LaCroix, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the commission had, more concerns with the bed and breakfast than the actual school being operated. So the, PUD was put for review to, debate the use of the bed and breakfast more. Is that a fair summary?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that, Cody. I think that was the commission's one of their biggest concerns was Airbnb, bed and breakfast. I don't recall it being called a bed and breakfast, but vacation home rental, that type of thing. And the number of six, because that was one of my questions I need to clarify on this, was the minimum number of 6 guests for the bed and breakfast. But they wanted to see how the music festival went, if there was any complaints that come in before they revisit and discuss about the bed and breakfast. And I think, quite frankly, just from seeing some of the pictures of the cabins, they're always referred to as sheds, while those look a little bit better than shed. So I think there may be some discussion on that too.
Additional questions for Cody?
I have one, and this is probably an uncomfortable one, but a lady put notes onto each commissioner asking that they would check Black Hill State University as to legitimacy of this particular music camp. Has anybody followed up on this?
So I don't know if the commissioners have from the planning department's perspective. That doesn't have anything to do with our zoning ordinance, so it's not something that we would apply or we would reach out to. If the commissioners wanted to, they most certainly can, but that's not something our office
Go
would
ahead,
do.
Lloyd.
Okay.
I'll respond to that. I was forwarded that too from Chairman Drews, and I was recently on an event that had contact information for the school, and I just received it, I think, the other day. So I told Mr. Drew I'd reach out to the school to get a response. But I just got the contact information
Okay.
the other day, so I haven't had a chance to.
Okay, I understand your point of view. That's fine. Thank you.
Additional questions for Cody? We do have a speaker request on this, Cody, for a Kim Haug. Did I do it right?
Close.
All right, please introduce yourself for the record and we'll get it right.
All right, thank you. My name is Kim Haig. I own 25 acres adjacent to the applicant's business. I wanted to give a report from the neighbors and our perspective of we were calling it a prove it year. They were going to prove, so backing up a little bit, I guess. Instead of just talking about the Airbnb, we're talking about the music festival as a whole. But it also relates to the Airbnb just because of the increase in traffic. But anyways, the Zogs and other neighbors are not able to be here today, so I've included my report with theirs. One of the main concerns we have in regards to this operation is safety. The last meeting I attended with the county commissioners, Katie had promised the staff and the commissioners that they would transport all of the children and their workers in a large vehicle each day to reduce the amount of traffic. So she had said that they were going to meet in town and then go to the site all together in one big bus or something. Unfortunately, this did not happen. They promised to carpool, however, throughout the 3 weeks, this did not happen. Every car I met, and I met several, had only 1 to 2 people in each car. At one point, one of my neighbors was headed to work, and he came upon a caravan of cars headed to the camp. It took them about 10 minutes to figure out how to navigate to get through. Have you guys been out there by chance? Okay. So it's a very steep hill on one side, and it's a drop off on the other. And unfortunately, one of their kids, well, I assume it was a kid, it was a young driver, one of their wheels was almost on the edge, or, very close to falling off of the edge, because there was so much going on at that time. So, anyways, like, if this was my prove it year, I would have, made sure to follow all your recommendations and not take them lightly. What also happened during the week was a large truck got stuck on Klondike Road, and it did not allow the attendees to the camp to go onto their property. So they were diverted to park on my driveway and then walk down to the camp. Also, with that happening, 2 other people that lived beyond where the truck was stuck, they could not access Highway 16. Just really threw a wrench in the in people's day. So this doesn't only affect the children that are attending the camp, but it affects the neighbors, the Airbnb guests, friends and family visiting, everyone. Another concern that was brought up was the speed at which the applicant and the guests were traveling. We do not have speed limit signs posted on this road. However, when you're on that road, you'd probably feel like maybe 15 to 20 miles per hour would be sufficient. This was not happening. So it's a very high concern of ours for the safety of everyone. And then another situation that happened was a gal dropped a student off at the camp and then was unable to find her way back out to Highway 16. So she ended up at one of the neighbors' houses. She did not speak fluent English, so it was very hard to communicate with her. So it took a long time to issue her out to Highway 16. Klondike Road is not a straight road. It is unique that it has 5 different roads branching off from it. So when people, if it was your own home, you'd know where to go and you'd know where to tell people how to get to your house and things. But when it's a business, you have all these people coming in and out, and they have no idea where they're going. So, and Google doesn't work, unfortunately, in that area. So, I was recently listening to an interview with Mike Carlson, an engineer for the DOT for South Dakota. And he said in his interview to always prepare for the worst and hope for the best. In this situation, I feel like they're just relying on hope alone and not preparing for the worst, which is unfortunate. So, in closing, I personally cannot think of a business in Rapid City or any other place that I've traveled in the U.S. where all of these circumstances exist. And I really feel like there's a reason for this. I feel like we need to follow all the rules set forth by planning and zoning and you guys in order to have a safe outcome. So please join me in voting to discontinue this PUD in an unsafe area.
Questions for Kim?
I've got a
Go
question
ahead,
for you,
Mike.
Mr. Chair. Our scope of what we're doing today is strictly to okay the bed and breakfast, not to do anything with what she's concerned with. Is that proper?
If I was to advise you, the way we review the review process, This is based upon a request for an approval of the extension. The wording from the planning department is the way it's going on. And that extension does involve all the conditions that are related to this particular item. That's what you're approving.
Right.
I guess I can't put it, I don't want to sway one way or the other. It's an extension, and we spoke about one item that's involved in that extension has come up for this purpose. However, you are still extending all the conditions, I believe 29 conditions. Questions for Kim?
How long, you're allowed to have one music camp per year.
Mm-hmm.
How long is the music camp?
It's supposed to be 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then beyond that, I think there's, lessons that'll be, kids will come here for their lessons for the traditional music, but not a true camp.
Mike, the applicant's here. We'll have them come up if you want to answer the specific.
Well, that was my concern. If that's what it is, it's what it is.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
So, would you be hopeful that the road would be expanded? Is that your hope?
Right. So, before the business started, there was probably one car on average every 2.5 hours, So now that the business has started, it's a continual flow. And this road just is not meant for a continual flow of traffic. So that's
So you'd be happy if they expanded the road?
well,
I
ideally.
mean, you'd be satisfied
right.
with the circumstance? This is an intrusion to I understand your community, but on the other hand,
Right.
if the road problem were solved, would you be perfectly content to welcome these people to your community and not see any harms as
Right.
such?
So I guess number one, my main request is that it remain a single-family residence, just to be able to keep the quaintness of the area. And because I see.
So you would not be satisfied with improving the road?
Correct.
Yeah, because it would change the nature, you say,
Right.
of the neighborhood, because the
Right.
road would be wider, and
Yeah.
it would also encourage more traffic, of course, as
Right.
good roads do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you simply would like to see this usage denied for all
Right.
practical purposes?
Right.
Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
all right.
Yes.
Do you think there ought to be any circumstance where someone has a rural or forested attraction somewhere or business? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we do live in an area where
Right.
there are thousands of such businesses.
Yes.
And they
So-
often are in the woods.
Yeah. So, the idea is awesome. It's a great idea. What I think is comparable to this is Black Hills Playhouse. But the difference that I see is Black Hills Playhouse is right off of Highway, is that 3? I can't remember which highway it is. But anyways, it's right off of the main paved, nice road. So as people come in and out, there is no problem there. So if you were to put Black Hills Playhouse in this setting, it would be nuts, So that's just a comparable, I guess.
That's a pretty unique situation. It's in the middle of a state park in which
Mhm.
almost all, building and activity is limited. And
Mhm.
I don't think you can live, however close you live to Rapid City, and hope for that kind of isolation is what I'm kind of suggesting.
Right.
Even though it would be, I agree, ideal.
Yeah, it's just the idea of a commercial property coming in to a place where everyone else in the area is a single-family residence.
Right.
But-
But that's the process. I mean,
Mhm.
how long have you lived out there?
So I've owned the land for 6 years, but we're building a house right now.
I see, okay.
Yep.
So 10 or 15 years ago, somebody who lived out there might have seen your presence as not the same as this, I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
that, but unsettling. And,
Right, but
well, you
I'm,
know,
yeah, I mean, it's one 25-acre chunk of land with a single-family home. I view that very different than this.
true, true. Okay, that was my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kim?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
You know, I've struggled with this. I've heard more on both sides, and one day I feel one way, and next day I feel another. And I mean, quite frankly, it's a tough decision. I mean, one of the biggest things that got me was who doesn't want their road improved?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who doesn't like what's happened over there. Because anybody else we ask to have, we waive requirements for road improvements. And then when we make them do it, they're upset. That one's really hard for me. That one tells me that they really against the whole thing altogether when they don't want the road improved.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've driven it, and it needs improvement, sorry. I mean,
Yeah.
but I get what you guys are trying to say. I do struggle with the way it is now. I wouldn't want to see a bed and breakfast there. I'm just being honest
Mm-hmm.
and forthcoming. We may not legally be able to do that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We may not be able to legally say that. But the commission wanted to hear what you had just reported.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely tell you to come to the commission meeting on Tuesday and give that report, because that's what they wanted to hear, and they want to see those pictures so they can have a full view of what's going on,
Okay,
you
perfect.
know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and just remember, legally, we may not,
Mm-hmm. Be able to
yeah.
do anything. All right, yeah, just
But
wanted
thanks
my,
for your report,
yeah, you
and I
bet.
mean, that's what we needed to hear, what kind of problems are happening and so forth, so.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions for Kim? Thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
Before I ask the applicant to go ahead and come up, Megan, I just want to make sure that I advise the commission correctly on what we are voting for, the way I explained it. I thought I was correct. We are, even though it's the one item, I just want to remind you before we get one more speaker up here, that even though it involves one item, the extension that Lloyd's talking about, you are still voting on the list and the item before you, correct?
Yeah, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the commission is looking for a recommendation on basically the entire idea. So whatever this commission's recommendation is on this PUD in general, I believe that's what they're looking for.
Correct. Thank you. Would the applicant want to come up and please introduce yourself just for the record? Go ahead, both of you, and that way we can ask questions of both of you.
So my name is Brett Walfish.
My name is Katie Smirnova. Brett is the executive director also of the Rushmore Music Festival, and I'm the artistic director. And both of us are the residents of this new single-family residence.
Thank you.
So I think the first thing that I just like to open with is that based on the staff's review, based on formal complaints made throughout our program, there were 0 complaints, and you know, you have the packets in front of you, and overwhelming support from staff to continue to grant this PUD to move forward. And I think that's a really important place to start, because we've complied with it's been a long process. You might be aware of it, and you are. It's been a very long process, and a lot of concessions were made on our part in order to make sure that this could actually happen and take place this past summer and going forward. And we had to jump through many hoops to make that a possibility, to make sure that the neighbors were happy enough for us to do this. The commissioners at the Board of Commission would give us a yes vote with, I believe it was 29 conditions. So I want to start with that, because based on the staff report, we did meet all 29 of those conditions that we were applicable for without the bed and breakfast component being active as of yet. Did you want to take over from here, or should I continue?
You can continue.
So I will continue. I'd like to address some of Kim's concerns first. I'll start with the simplest one, which is the blocked truck on the driveway. It was a Kiefer sanitation truck. It blocked, so our land where it comes in, there's a fork in the road that goes up through our land, which then goes to her land. It's on an easement. So what you refer to as a driveway is actually an access easement that we all share. The Kiefer truck, this was after our program concluded, so we had no students left over anymore. It was after that. I was on my way home with a friend who was coming over just to help me clean up things, get my house back to a house. And she and I both were unable to get past this truck because they are also doing construction right now. And I think as that Kiefer porta potty truck was going from their property down to ours, he miscalculated the curve and jackknifed. But that had nothing to do with our PUD, our program, or anything else. That was entirely after operations had concluded.
We did have to park that car off the easement, and that is one thing to keep in mind. There is an easement off that entire road. It's not just a private driveway. We don't have a road district. That's something we'd like to create, hopefully down the road, so that we can all have a safe road, because right now it is not. We knew this when we bought the property, and we are actively making steps in making it safer. We personally paid for 4 pull-offs, but with regard to this Kiefer truck, that was coming not off of the access that we use. It was coming from the Haigs and the Zogs and all the other neighbors that are living up above us. So we did have to leave our car off the easement, but it's not trespassing. There is an easement for this purpose, and that was it was an emergency.
I'd also like to speak to the cars and the carpool situation. We had students staying. We had 4 students staying in our house here with us. We had 9 students hosted in another home off campus, and we had 2 homes that were hosting the remaining 16 students that we had. And though there were 3 cars coming up per day to drop off students right before lunch, we had 3 cars taking them home after dinner every single day. And then on weekends, when we did our field trips, we would have a couple more cars because, well, we couldn't combine and we needed to get help with that. But at maximum, we had 5 cars in and out at once. And the situation that Kim was referring to was actually one that I would border on harassment by the neighbor that was driving the car. He was parked right next to one of the pull-offs, could have very easily pulled off the road. We actually have a letter from a student with a photo documenting this. And we've been advised that should more harassment take place from our neighbors, we should actually contact the sheriff's department directly, because they've actually been harassing us, trying to intentionally drive our cars off the road. I almost got run off the road once myself. It's been actually it's been a safety concern for us from the behavior of our neighbors and how they're treating us and our guests when they're in our home on our shared road together.
We've had one of the neighbors actually trespass on our property and confront one of our students asking for a permit to operate the festival. We have a written documentation from her. We have 2 students who were in the van. I think our biggest concern as the residents and as also administration of the festival is and it's disconcerting. There has been quite a bit of slander, quite a bit of libel, and quite a bit of untrue statements that have been made. And one thing that we would like is to set some of those straight. So one of the facts that Kim brought up was that we did not carpool. That is actually untrue. We did, as Brett said, have 9 students stay in one house. We actually rented a van from Denver for those students to carpool daily. There was nothing available in Rapid City, so we actually rented one from the Denver airport, and we had 8 students come in that car. And then Brett's parents were the chaperones for the other 7. They had to split between 2 cars. So the total number of students coming in vehicles every day was 3. I believe at one point we said it would be a maximum of 6. So we've definitely kept our numbers down, but we have made every effort to stay true to what we've promised, and we have done that.
Can I add that also the PUD conditions don't specify number of vehicles? There's no count that's in writing on those. Actually, we had originally proposed 6, and that was taken out somehow in the process, but we still maintained our word at 6 cars that we were generating per day.
One of the recent things that have been very concerning to us as an organization, and we plan to take action against this, is the slanderous email that has been sent to the entire Board of Commission. They have referred to us, quote, as shady people moving into this country. We believe and I agree with you. Why would someone be against improving a road? Why would someone be against violin lessons in someone's house? We've been thinking about that for a long time, and we have pretty much come to a conclusion that either our neighbors are anti-Semitic, because Brett and I happen to be Jewish, and we've moved into that neighborhood.
Or because she's a Russian immigrant who is first generation.
But the fact that they've mentioned that we're shady people moving into this country, we're both U.S. citizens. And our organization was founded in South Dakota. We did not start this organization anywhere else. We're a South Dakota-based nonprofit organization. We receive funding from the South Dakota Arts Council, from the City of Rapid City, from Arts Midwest. We just got awarded a $100,000 grant from a private foundation. I mean, we are a legitimate organization, and for someone to say things like that, or say that we've been run out of Black Hill State University. We've had all of our faculty and student concert at Black Hill State University. We've never been charged. They welcome us. We've left their facility because of the rising costs of the student housing. And that's why Brett and I decided to build our home, and we said we'd like to host our kids so they don't have a tuition. So there's just been a lot that has been coming up, and it's very concerning to us that these things have been actually becoming public.
And these are grave defamations of our character, both in writing and verbally. And yes, we feel very troubled that we are having to address these concerns to you as a board, because
We have not got ACLU involved in this yet, but it's going in that direction.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm on the Human Relations Commission for the city, but I mean, this is the first I've heard of anything that you've said that you feel that way. So, I mean, nothing I've read or any intentions that I've gotten from any of the neighbors did I feel that would, of course, I'm not driving that road every day. But I mean, I haven't gotten any literature, emails, or anything along those lines that would lead me to what you just said. So I just wanted to clarify that. I mean,
and we did not want to jump to that conclusion. I mean, we said this can't be what this is. I mean, we live in the 21st century. We're in 2022.
We've had some people suggest this to us, but this email that's been sent to the entire Board of Commissioners definitely goes to show that that's an issue that we have to take seriously as an organization, as the Board of Directors, and as personally living in this home. I mean, we're concerned for our security.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I mean, with that being said, I'm going to move on to what's in front of us.
Absolutely.
Definitely, there's some things that need to be worked out, maybe, and I don't think there's going to be any mitigation that's going to happen, quite frankly, between this. And that was one of the reasons the commission wanted to see a trial period to see how things were, to see if things after a while would happen. And apparently they're not. So I'm going to go back to what's in front of us. Us as a commission need to move forward or not. I struggle with the bed and breakfast. I really do. At this point, living and hearing everything, not, and quite frankly, I'm these guys know I'm pro Airbnb. People need to make money, or at least assist and to do what they want to do in their community. And the reason why is pretty much the road and the safety, quite frankly. And I know you got it all down here, 6 people at one time. But I've driven that road, and I'm just expressing my part of it. And so I don't know what this commission may do, what kind of recommendation they may do, but I think today my vote's going to be no, and then I will consider all things forward come commission meeting, because I'm fortunate I get to vote on this twice. So today and again, so my mind could change between that time.
Can I say one thing? So we have not done any Airbnb in this property. Our whole house is completely unfinished. We've not tried doing it. We frankly don't right now want to live with any strangers. We do know that the road will be improved. We are working with KLJ. They should have a survey conducted by the end of this month. They should have engineering plans for the road done in September, in early September, and we will begin the improvement as per the county's recommendation up to so that I believe it's 18 feet that we'll be improving the road to. That has put us in unsafe situations. It has put our family, it's put our students. If you wouldn't mind, Brett can read a short testimony of one of our students of what one of our neighbors has done this summer specifically. But I feel like the road is definitely an issue, and it is not up to debate on our side.
We're planning on doing it. That has nothing to do
It
with the
needs to be
votes of
done. It is
anybody.
unfortunate that our neighbors were able to subdivide the lots. We have,
I believe they
think,
received variances from the Board of Commission and from the Planning Commission to not have to take on these required things by county ordinance, and those variances allowed them to skirt the requirements, and now we're the ones having to bear that burden.
but I think the point is that we live in a community where there are 8, I believe, homes or people living there, and the road is 9 to 12 feet. I think it's negligent on everyone's part not to improve it, and we're the new people moving in, and we're doing everything we can to make it safe, and we've already done that. And we plan to continue doing that.
May I read this letter?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What's the letter in regards to?
It's in regard to the carpool situation where the road was blocked by the neighbor, or unless you don't need to hear
Sure,
it.
that was presented as information at this hearing. Go ahead.
So,
This is Jasmine Dua, who was our violin student this summer.
So on Sunday, July 17th, around 11:30 a.m., Rushmore Music Festival students and chaperones were leaving to go on a field trip. I was a passenger in the first car, a Chrysler Pacifica, and we had 5 cars behind us. After driving some ways down the road, we encountered a neighbor's car, a Jeep Cherokee. The driver of my car, Harvey Walfish, politely gestured and asked the driver of the neighbor's vehicle to pull over into the divot in the road, since it would be the least time-consuming way to get all 5 cars through. The road is too narrow for multiple cars to pass at once. However, the driver of the Jeep didn't seem to understand, so Harvey parked our car to talk to the neighbor and explain the situation. However, the neighbors still refused to pull over, claiming that they lived there, which left us the only option of having nearly all of our cars drive backwards on the road and then to our property. As there is no space to turn around, since we were the first car in the line, we had the space to pull into the divot, which allowed us to call the other cars, letting them know they had to drive backwards on the road and to the driveway. However, as we were pulling into the divot, the neighbors changed their minds on how to approach the situation, and rather than driving by, they started pulling into the divot as well, nearly hitting our car. We quickly pulled out of the divot to avoid being hit and pass the Jeep. All of our cars were then able to pass, with the exception of one that had to drive back to gather another student. During this situation, a passenger of the Jeep was recording us. The student in the passenger seat of the Chrysler was able to take a picture of the Jeep right before we pulled into the divot, which shows the license plate of the Jeep and the passenger recording us, which I have here I wasn't able to send it this in time.
Okay, thank you. I want to jump in here too. I'm sorry. I'm like Lloyd. I want to clear up a couple of things. One, the commissioners did receive a complaint letter from the same individuals. It appears written to each one, so that's on the record. But just so you understand, I read all of them too, because they were each individually worded somewhat different. I did not understand that to be anti-Semitic. I understood it to be questioning whether there was an issue regarding your leaving Black Hills State. It's that simple. That's how I took it as a commissioner, and I want to explain it. And I don't believe how they were worded said much difference in that. That's certainly It was worded more nefariously than that, my interpretation. But I'm flexible enough and I'm broad enough in the review of these matters, I take it as an opposition. That's what I take it as, not anti-Semitic. And I guess,
Absolutely, and
but
I do hope you're
let me
correct.
finish, because you just spoke about it. One of the items that's on this, unfortunately, that I had to explain is still part of the review. This road has represented 90% or better of the difficulty in reviewing this matter. And you are involved in that road decision. You came here, whether you understood we don't have infrastructure or funding available for infrastructure that makes a certain amount of convenience for a situation like this school, which I hesitate calling a business. I'm sure you're not getting rich over it.
We
But
don't pay ourselves at all
but
for this.
but it is still borderline commercial in the application. And what I'm trying to say here is that issue exists for your neighbors as well as it does for you, because they do understand that there is no infrastructure. The county is not going to come to your benefit or their benefit to eliminate this problem or bring you water or bring you sewer, bring you utilities. It doesn't happen. This is the Black Hills of South Dakota. You you had other issues that came up with the first one that didn't involve the road, and that's where I'm going to point out so I'm clear. Highway 16, I travel it every day. I don't care which direction you approach, and I'm not talking about your place, Klondike Road. Whichever direction, is an absolute danger to get off there on a regular basis. If I had a lot of people coming on Highway 16, and that's one of the reasons I oppose this, I won't change that. You know I opposed it, but I'm still asking you to take that into consideration in reaction to neighbors and traffic and car congestion. Those folks have lived there, and they understand that too.
So
Thank you.
since the denial from the Planning Commission, there have been a lot of changes that have been made to this PUD. And one of those changes was that we took all the concerts off the table. We had one performance for the Board of Directors. So one of the biggest issues with the road width was we proposed to have concerts up to 100 people. So we took that entirely off the table. We had limited everything to just the carpooled students. And then so this is still an active construction site. We haven't finished our A-frames yet. But once they're constructed, there will be no back and forth for students. They will all be residing on the property. So save for the field trips, they will actually never be leaving campus.
I believe that you're trying to comply with the conditions, and those conditions did change, I agree with you, since they left this planning commission.
Yes.
And they exchanged considerably. However, it still becomes that the road is the basis of the issue of many of these things. That didn't change.
No.
And the fact for me in regards to this is that I've seen again and again come before this commission, and I've been doing this for 20 years, you guys, over 20 years. Property changes hands, and then that's when the trouble starts. That's where it really starts, when things are approved that previously. Now, that's taken care of in here. However, I've seen it go away as well. Before this commission, before the Board of Commissioners, I've seen this commission vote against something. You just saw it. And then the Board of Commissioners are in a position with additional knowledge and additional directions that they approve it. I certainly don't take aim at them. They do what they have to do. We do what we have to do. So I just want you to understand, in my mind, and I think I do speak for the rest of the idea, especially with the confrontation with your neighbor and the feelings you got from this letter that was submitted to each one of the Board of Commissioners, not to this. We have copies of them, and I want you to know that in our packet. That's the It's not anti-Semitic, and I realize it's no joke to you, but I'm trying to tell you that I don't take it as that. I did take it that they were proposing, of which I don't know whether it's a bunch of hoo-ha or whatever, that there wasn't, you left with cause. That's a fair way to put it. And that cause could have been your own ideas, could have been their ideas. I really didn't look forward to need to know. I'm looking at what I see before me.
Thank you. Actually, if I can just address one of your concerns that you brought up, it was a concern last time, was the Route 16 issue. And this came up in the Board of Commissions, because we after we learned of that concern, we did some homework on that. We contacted DOT, and this is before we had taken the concerts piece off the table. We asked them, would we need a traffic study? Would we need a sign, a pull-out, something? And Katie has the email of it. I think it was sent, it might even be in the board packet from last time, but the person at Department of Transportation said that that would be unnecessary based on the amount of traffic that we were proposing before we took the concerts off the table. Just in that location.
I guess so that you know, and I want to be clear, I'm suggesting one concert is as bad as 19 of them with that particular road that you've selected to do this on. That's a big concern to me, living out here for years and addressing these problems. That's a very, very big concern, and it's still on the table here. It may not be on the table as much when it goes to the Board of Commissioners because they've reviewed it with a different viewpoint on it. So they certainly came to a different conclusion than we did previously.
Absolutely. I just want you to know that we did take your concerns on that seriously last time, and we did do our homework on it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Katie and Brett? And you would like to speak one more time before?
You know, I understand that you don't view these emails as discriminatory, but when someone combines, us and likens us to being a wolf in sheep's clothing, hiding behind money, and being shady people moving into this country, forgive me, but I have a different opinion, and it sounds too much like history. And no one in their right mind, except for this person who gave her phone number and her name, will outwardly come out and say, I am anti-Semitic, I am a white supremacist, I am a racist, and I don't want these people living here. Get out. That will never happen. You will get arrested. You'll be behind bars if you say that publicly. But this person chose to email that, and we find that very concerning.
Okay, and to reply to that, I agree, but at least the person put their name in and follow-up information there. As far
Clearly
as
not very educated.
my receipt of that, I can assure you I've received more hateful information on causes that have come before me and at home when I'm trying to digest my supper than she's got in her letter. So I can try to tell you that that's not the worst I've ever seen. And again, I can assure you, I'm sitting here and I can assure you, and I have no chinks in my armor about my background. It's all on the table. I did not take it as that. I explained what I did take it as. I read through those and I've seen hateful things said. So,
And I can appreciate that. I guess our reason for bringing this up is that because it is in the public record, because you all have it in front of you. We only read about it when we looked at the board packet a couple days ago, with not enough time to even get a formal response from the university on it. But it is a libelous statement, and I would urge you to disregard those comments.
other questions for Brett and Katie? Thank you. I appreciate it. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment and I guess a question or whatever. We're being asked to allow planned unit development, blah, 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 bed and breakfast. In my mind, we've got some bed and breakfast in our area, and I know the traffic it's brought in. And I would say right off the bat, I would not be in favor of the bed and breakfast part. But it appears that what we're going to vote on is more than that. We're actually going to vote on the whole enchilada.
That's what I was
That
trying
puts
to
us
get.
in a real bind here.
Cody, you want to reply, or Megan? Katie, Brett, you can sit down if you like to be more comfortable.
Cody Sack, environmental planner. So yeah, the planning commission is going to be making a recommendation over the whole planned unit development, not just the bed and breakfast portion. when I stated the bed and breakfast portion, that's why it was reviewed so quickly. Usually we give a year before we review it again, but it was reviewed right after, a couple months after the approval to mainly discuss the bed and breakfast portion, but you approve the whole thing. So if you recommend the approval of the extension, it moves forward with the bed and breakfast. If you recommend to deny, it moves forward with the denial vote for the whole PUD.
I knew this was
Go ahead.
Megan Kruger with the state's attorney's office, and there's no reason why you can't provide additional commentary, such as we want to deny this particular portion, that's why we're denying, we're recommending denial, or we want to deny or approve one particular portion. There's nothing saying that you couldn't do two motions, saying you want to approve one portion and you want to deny another portion. There's nothing in our ordinances that says that you can't do that. You just have to approve, deny, or continue, but how you decide to do that is, the world is your oyster, so.
Thank you.
So, Megan, we could deny the bed and breakfast and approve the other, or continue the other, whatever.
Yeah, I would just suggest you do it as two motions. So that way it gives the board clear guidance on where everybody is going. I mean, I don't know how you all are gonna vote, so.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
I kind of see where they're saying, and the applicants, you know, when they were at the commission, they were very adamant that they wanted their being, or the bed and breakfast in order to do the income. But I also know the commission was very concerned about that road. And then we had the discussions between the rest of the owner, just as you just heard here today, the complications and the difficulties of doing it. I personally would just, this is just me, suggest that the bed and breakfast be held off for a year until the road improvement's done, but that's me. I don't know. I think I tried to pass that to you guys at the commission meeting and it was, no. So, but that's just me.
Any other commissioners want to speak up?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So under recommendation number 5, it says that the number of guests staying in the bed and breakfast is not to exceed 6 guests from a single family. So part of my question is, you've got 2 A-frames, you've got 4 shed-type cabins, and then you've got the main house. How many guests at any required, or any given day, could you have staying at this property as a bed and breakfast?
Their septic is sized for 30 people, and they're limiting it to 6.
The statement from a single family isn't 6 guests, it's 6 guests from a single family, so you could have 3 single-family guests, each having 6. So the way this is worded is not grammatically limiting it to just 6 guests at any given point.
So that condition actually came from the applicant's attorneys and the neighbor's attorneys through their discussions. So that comes straight from what their attorneys agreed upon.
Katie, would you like to, go ahead, please introduce yourself for the record again.
Katie.
There's some people only hear this, they don't see it. Go
Sure.
ahead.
Katie Smirnova, applicant. So the way that we understood the number 6 was we have 3 bedrooms upstairs. We would only rent those 3 bedrooms to one group of people, and that would be 6 people maximum. Just to also clarify, those sheds or cabins are never to be used for any sort of lodging. They are literally there for off-season storage and for lessons during the music camp and practicing.
So as this gets approved, the A-frames that are being constructed.
The A-frames are actually part of this building permit, which is currently open. We have 1 more year to construct the A-frames. It's part of one single-family residence. It's all under one roof. It's just a big house.
And so those would be used as additional rental beds, or would those be just
Cody Sack, environmental planner. The only portion that's going to be rented out for the bed and breakfast portion is the portion in this main house on the upstairs level. Like the applicant said, there's 3 bedrooms. The A-frames are specifically only for guests of the school when the 3-week schools oh, sorry, when the 3-week school is being operated, those A-frames will not be used as portion of the bed and breakfast.
Okay. So, my perception of this is that you, as running a business there and the school, increases the road traffic over, even if somebody takes 25 acres and splits it into 3 parcels. 3 families does not have near the traffic of 6 guests coming, plus homeowners, plus deliveries, and your school. So I am really concerned about the road as well and the neighbors coming in and out. I have heard that you guys are taking the steps to improve the road. I believe that it really should fall on you because you're the one that's increasing the traffic way more so than private residences.
And we've taken on that responsibility. We're already moving forward with that.
So I'm acknowledging that and saying that that's probably a good thing. I would not be in favor of the bed and breakfast until the road improvements are improved.
We agree with that too, for what it's worth.
Can I ask all the commissioners to refrain from which side, in case we divide this into separate motions, just ask your questions and then we'll discuss on the motion, as Megan put it. So I'm just saying so we don't get any more future and who's
Yeah,
where.
I
Go
just
ahead,
have
Jim.
one clarification. I have a question to the applicant, so my understanding is then, if, with the bed and breakfast arrangement, if you get a reservation for 2 people from one family, then the other 2 rooms set empty?
Yes, yeah, I mean, to be honest, we'll probably not have anyone living in this house. We've enjoyed the privacy and the space and everything, but we'd like the option. Yes, but you're correct. We would not like to share our house with 3 separate groups of strangers.
Wow, I mean, most people who run bed and breakfast would would not do that. They would arrange to have, and I've stayed in bed and breakfast in homes like that, and there's been 3 or 4 different families because they have that kind of, room, but
Sure.
that's making seems to me that it would be rare then to have a family of 6 very often who would show up for a bed and breakfast, but
Brett and I travel around the country using Airbnb primarily, and we sometimes share living spaces with other people. Sometimes we don't. For us, this is just supplemental income to help us continue running the festival because we do this all on a volunteer basis. This is, we teach. That's what we went and got our doctorate and master's and bachelor's degrees in. So that is our area of expertise, not Airbnb. That's just.
that does, in my judgment, reduce the impact of the Airbnb, or of the bed and breakfast to a minimal sort of thing that I can't see any objection to it myself.
That's how we see it.
Any other questions for Katie while she's back up here? Thank you, Katie. Any questions for Cody? Okay, and we're gonna make sure Karen gets back here before. But I do have a few comments I'd like to make so that Karen's aware of them and can object certainly. One is I do prefer a voice vote on this, individual voice roll call vote. Secondly, I would prefer that, as Megan said, that you be allowed to vote separately on the bed and breakfast issue from the extension, the total extension of this, which includes the bed and breakfast, as well as it includes one additional. There's a condition in there that any increase in the number of people staying at the bed and breakfast, which we now determine to be 6, or any increase in the number of music camps per year will require Klondike Road to be improved. In other words, that's a very important condition that the commissioners had added in there. But I would like to vote on them separately, and what I will allow under the rules is a very brief comment if you should decide to do so on your vote. rather than do it ahead of time. I would just go ahead and do it with your vote individually, and Brittany will call the members. Any discussion on those instructions before we get to them? Okay. Would someone like to make motions in regards to this matter?
I have one question I just
Sure,
want to ask.
go ahead.
Jason.
That's part of the discussion.
It says this is located 0.68 miles from Highway 16,
I believe so, correct.
so it's 2/3 of a mile, barely over a half a mile from the road. And I guess I'm always alerted to the fact that when you have a highway that close with that kind of traffic, the expectation that you're going to have these isolated bucolic sort of sites seems to me, unless you're willing to go way back on the road, and this is not very far back on the road. And many people go far back on the road, so they get away from the road. Where do the commercial people go? They go near the road. They don't want their people driving over torturous, rutted roads, as most of those are. So I think it seems like a natural arrangement for some kind of commercial development, and I'm using that loosely because I don't see this quite as commercial, but we've got a question there from, she's begging to
sorry.
differ with me. I think we
I'm
better
trying to
let her
pay
do it.
attention. You have to come up and reintroduce yourself, Kim.
Kim Haig, neighbors. So I believe that distance is from where the Forest Service road ends and where their business begins. Am I mistaken there?
I believe it's 0.68 miles from Highway 16.
Okay.
Yep, the intersection of South Highway 16 and Klondike Road.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was from where the
Oh, okay,
Forest Service ended.
all right. Okay, that answers my question.
And then I would just like to add too that the planning commission can add conditions. So if they don't want to flat deny the bed and breakfast, they can add a condition that the bed and breakfast can't be operated until the road is built to the 18 feet. Just letting the commission know.
That's a good comment. Go ahead.
Okay.
The commission is the one that needs to, oh, go ahead, Kim.
Kim Haig, wondering too, like, as far as the road being widened to 18 feet, do you guys recommend retaining walls for safety or guardrails? Because it'd be easy to extend it to 18 feet, but as far as the proper
Megan
safety.
Kruger with the state's attorney's office. So as far as I'm aware, this is, I believe, a private easement. So obviously there are recommendations that we could make, but it's ultimately a private road, so.
Okay.
Our county requirements for ordinance 14 wouldn't apply to it.
At this point.
Well, I mean, it's a public road, it's not a public road, so.
That's what I was getting at, Megan, just so you know, if they did vote, if they voted to change it to a road district, that changes the whole matter on design or change of the road after that.
They can.
That I don't know, I mean.
If they design to change it. In other words, they can't be told when they become a road district that you have to make it meet county standard, highway standard 14. But down the road, if you begin to make changes, the commissioners, there's other people that could get involved because you're a government entity. They've spoken to that about us, what's dedicated, what isn't, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Charlie, unfortunately, I don't know, as far as a road district's ability to take on a private road.
Right.
I could research it, but I just don't know off the top of my head, and frankly, the road district statutes are really bad. So there probably isn't a lot of guidance in them on how to do that. I guess my gut would be, without researching it, that they couldn't take on a private road. It has to be a public road, but I just don't know without doing more research on it. So.
Understood.
Uh,
Go ahead,
Cody
Cody.
Cody Sack, environmental planner. I think one thing that she's referring to too is in order to widen that road, you have to cut out quite a big hill. You have to cut it out quite a bit. So we can't make them put a retaining wall in. We can only make them either slope it or stable. They have to stabilize it somehow, whether that's a retaining wall or if they have room to slope it and vegetate it. That's required through the stormwater permit that they'll have to get for the road.
Correct. And the Board of Commissioners, I understood, and have done before, even require engineers' involvement on some of those things.
Correct, and they have an engineer who's working on the road,
Yes.
so I haven't seen any, they
Yep.
said they get it at the end of the month. That's something that we review to make sure that it meets the proper sloping.
Just to bring it back to the point at hand, though, so the commission understands, there's nothing on the table about improving Klondike Road. It could possibly happen in the future. And there's nothing that's being required of the applicant in this case to improve the road either. They're doing so on a voluntary basis where discussion has led them.
Correct, yes.
Okay. I just wanted the commission to know that prior to vote so that there's no question when we vote that that's an understanding. The road is as is. Thank you. Somebody's going to have to put together a motion or we're never going to get to item 18. Now, you can't believe this clock, just as a little humorous thing. We haven't stayed at 8:45 through the whole
Fastest
thing.
meeting ever.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to put forth a motion on item 17 for the PU 2206 to,
May I ask first, are you going to separate the bed and breakfast from the review of the entire
if I
extension?
may complete.
Okay.
With the added condition that the bed and breakfast not be operated prior to the road widening, but to accept the conditional use to continue. Or
Okay, so you want to do it in one motion rather than two?
I would like to accept the planning or the staff's recommendation with the added condition that the bed and breakfast does not get operated until the road's widened.
Where would you want to put that way, Cody, so we can put it in a condition for discussion? Is there a second to?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded on the motion.
I think we could just amend condition 17 and say that prior to operation of the bed and breakfast or any increase in the number of music camps per year will require Klondike Road to be improved to a minimum of 18 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Would you repeat that?
That prior to operating the bed and breakfast or any increase in the number of music camps per year will require.
Thank you.
All right, discussion. Jim, I can see you're ready to spit something out.
Well, so in essence, then, once the road is improved, then the bed and breakfast is a go?
Yes, they would be able to operate the bed and breakfast
Right.
with still only the 6 people allowed. That would have to
Right,
be
yeah,
gone through.
those are their own imposed, yeah, okay.
Right, yep.
All right.
They could request more
Yeah, right.
theoretically in the future through amendments, but.
Okay.
So if we were against the bed and breakfast, we would vote twice. We'd do the one that said we're against the bed and breakfast, and then we'd do the other one to say the rest of it goes on.
Oh, no, this way it's already included. So in other words, if you were in support of the bed and breakfast, but you still oppose the extension of this, you would be voting against it. However, it does mix the issues together, yes, that Megan so clearly defined for us.
My only question on this then, if, for example, we are dead set against bed and breakfast, even if it's an 18-foot road, then you'd have a separate motion.
Yes.
Yes, so you would need to do a substitute motion because there's
Right.
currently a motion on the floor that I believe has been seconded.
Right.
Am I correct in that?
Yes,
So there would need to be a substitute motion and then see if there's a second on that. Then you would vote on the substitute motion. If that fails, then you would come back to the original motion. That would be
Correct.
proper Robert's rules.
that is correct. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Well, I'm just gonna, I'm trying to, I like your rule, you know, if we're gonna do a roll call vote, I get to explain a little bit why I'm gonna vote the way I am.
Correct.
But I think the motion on the floor addressed one of my concerns, which was the width of the road for the traffic. It's not totally against bed and breakfast, it's the safety factor that it's there. So that's why I support that part, is I think that the safety factor, once that's addressed, then I think you could, still approved only 6, which is limited, not, but I'd caution you too, I mean, when you say 6 all from the same family, they may not all be from the same family.
Right.
They may be 3 different cars, 3 different groups. I shouldn't have thrown that in there, that's gonna
But that,
create more stuff.
in all fairness, in support of it, that's the way the discussion was
Yeah.
handled.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else discuss before we vote? Hearing none, then we're going to go ahead and vote on a roll call basis on the motion that's on the floor. Would you please read that back the way that it's stated so everybody understands what they're properly voting for or opposing?
Sure. The motion by Burton, seconded by McGregor, to approve Plan Unit Development Overlay PU 22-06 with 29 conditions with an amendment to condition number 17 that the bed and breakfast is not operated until the road is improved.
Understood. Anyone have any questions of Brittany in regards to that reading? Go ahead and call the roll, Brittany.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Burton,
Aye.
McGregor,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Johnson.
Oppose? No.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. 6-1, 5-1, is that correct?
5-1. 5-1.
Thank you. And no one opted to do any, and it's done, it's closed. Did you want to speak one more time?
No,
Mr. Commissioner, you're certainly allowed to. We don't cuff your hands here. Thank you. Thank you for all your comments. Now we're back to number 18.
Jason Thedison, Assistant Planning Director. County Board Report. Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendations from their July 25th meeting.
Anything else for Jason? Items from the public went left on us. Items from the staff.
Just the building permit report, I passed that out prior to the meeting starting. I'll go over a few highlights there. As far as single-family residences go, we did see a little decline there. So if you compare it to last year at this time, we had 21 building permits submitted as opposed to the 6 we've received so far. Well, that we received in July of this year. Then if you go further over to the right, you can compare to the 2021 year-to-date. As far as July goes, we had 108 building permits last year at this time, compared to the 79 we have so far this year. So we have seen a significant slowdown this year. Residential additions are kind of the same way. If you scroll down, I think it's about the 6th one from the bottom. We had 13 of those last year. We're only at 5 this year. Year-to-date on those, or year totals to July. Looks like we had 47 of them last year and 44 this year, so that's tracking pretty well, but overall we're down roughly 33%, it looks like, for year-to-date compared to last year.
Questions for Jason on the building permit report?
What was the industrial last year, 730,000?
I would have to go back and research to find
Just
out
curious
exactly what permits those were.
Okay.
I think it was the stuff out on South Highway 39. Pretty sure there was quite a few dollars in that one that went through on South Highway 39. I think it was, Honey's design development or whatever. There was one large one.
Oh, the Highway 79, yeah.
Yeah, I believe.
Okay. I can definitely research it if you want to know.
No, that, I'm just curious.
Okay.
Anything else for Jason on building permit? Okay, hearing none, items from the membership. Hearing none, we'd take a motion to adjourn if it was put on the table.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, we're adjourned.